Right, Carlo, you should be here. You here, Carlo?
I'm back. Yep, I'm here and ready to go.
Cool. Right, so we see the list's been loaded in. They've already done all the selections. They both went for the Howland list, which is completely not really what we were expecting.
No,
Um,
no, I'm sat here trying to work out what it is about Howland that makes this the better choice.
and have you got any solutions? Any?
Bog Devil Ambush is quite nice,
Yeah, Bog
but they
Devil.
can't be playing they can't be playing entirely for one card. You know, that couldn't possibly be the most important part of this matchup. For
Maybe.
me, the only thing they can be going for is they're not willing to give up activation advantage to their opponent. But for me, Fire and Blood is the one game mode where activation advantage doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, there's good questions to ask at the end, though. For us, is going to obviously be, you know, what is or what why pick those particular lists specifically.
Yeah.
Um,
So so Doug has said that Wilder might be very important. Yeah, Wilder is a good uh puts a good amount of pressure onto dogs. But if your opponent understands the interaction, it's nowhere near a guarantee.
mhm.
Particularly, it's not even a guarantee into Lannisters who will very happily control that crown on their off turns, their second turns. So with Starks, it's a big ask to kind of think that he will have a lot of more abilities. I'm still struggling.
Yeah. Let's go over to the chat. I think we're getting some drop screens, but that's just my Facebook and things loading up. Um, yeah, it's just Douglas saying, yeah, cool, I'm good. Making sure I follow everything at the same time. We got our new follower. Can you believe it? Tank followed us about 20 hours ago, Carlo. How amazing is that?
Brilliant.
Three sales. Yes, this is the mirror match. Welcome back, three sales. So hopefully you'll see lots of Stark on Stark action tonight, and you'll be pretty sad or pretty mad about it in the future. What on earth? I've just looked at the board. I've just had a time to look at the
Yep,
board.
they seem to have filled it with lines, which I mean they can do as they please before the game deploys, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, they what's interesting about them filling this board with lines is that they've clearly come in with a game plan each. They each know what they're going to do
Oh God, yeah.
with this deployment. What will be interesting is whether or not we see them hide their dogs at the back for how many points they might be worth. Whether or not either of them are aggressive towards the 18-inch line, or if they're going to effectively hide towards the back of their own deployment zones,
Yeah.
and who that favors with them both running a near identical set of NCUs in Walder, Sansa, and Howland versus Walder, Arya, and Howland. So really, there seems to be not much to be gained from non-commitment of combat,
Yeah.
unless one of them believes that they can literally outplay the other.
Yeah. Um. So I definitely think that's going to be very important. Who have we got? We've got Space Monkey in chat. Hello, Dan. How you doing, mate? I hope everything's good for you. Hope you're managing with the lockdown. And Vanyard. Hi, Vanyard. Hello. How you doing? Three sales. Have they both gone for NCU commanders? Yes, they've both gone for their Howland choices in this particular matchup, which for Fire and Blood has taken me and Carlo a little bit, kind of like almost by surprise. It wouldn't be
For
what we
me,
choose, but
it has to be that they consider it their anti-Stark list. That with Walder and Bog Devil Ambush combined, you can hopefully try and kill dogs just by sheer activation and no combat required.
yeah,
If we look now at their lists and discuss, I guess, where we think that the advantages lie in that, but I am I was convinced that we were going to see a Brendan versus Eddard game, and it's completely not gone that way.
Yeah.
Still, we have from Ariakas the Stormcrow Mercenaries with Rickon, bringing Shaggy Dog, costing only 5 points for those 2 activations, but being worth a lot of VPs if Larks can go out there and destroy them.
Yeah.
And in Larks' Howling list, we see Summer and Shaggy Dog, and we have the Cunning Trapper in those Tully Sworn shields, which can be aggressive and put out a large area of zonal control with traps to kill off dogs, which is probably why we already see Ariakas deploying his dogs way at the back of his deployment zone. His first 2 deployments were just, they are out the back and not intending to be of use.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very common thing we've seen from Ariakas. He doesn't deploy dogs aggressively like you see a lot of other players. He deploys them in the back, and he gets them almost thematically. They stalk around the back of a line, and then they come in and strike when they're needed. I think it's a very interesting way of playing the dogs, and I think is actually probably a better way of playing them than many other players do. A lot of
We
people just
actually
get them around the
see
flank and harass, but
Stormcrow Mercenaries with Rickon in both lists here. So I think the game may well be decided by who can protect those Stormcrow Mercs the best, because they will. It would be quite a natural thing for both to mark each other's Stormcrow Mercenary unit, because it is one of the few units that does not become incredibly dangerous when marked. They do have some uses. You know, they still have Motivated by Coin, allowing additional extra out of activation attacks.
Yep.
And you know, they're not to be sniffed at when they are marked. And there is maybe something to be said for the fact that they're already worth a lot of VPs, so there is no need for to mark that unit to make it have to be defensive. But I would expect to see both of those get marked. The question is whether or not we'll see a unit like Kranigman Trackers get marked. Again, they would become relatively dangerous aggressively, but they are so fragile that you would have to be very careful. We'll see whether or not they mark each other's defensive units and just go after them, or if they mark each other's more aggressive, fragile units and kind of tell each other, well, let's see how well you can position that unit. Can you keep it alive?
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you watching on stream live, as you can see, I am interacting a little bit with some of the trays. It's a known bug with some of the trays. They don't you can't hit battle ready. So I'm just doing that for them. So don't worry. After the deployment's over, we'll not be interacting anymore. Okay, so we've got this opportunity as well where we see a couple of the last units coming down. Just remember, guys, we've got the merch down below. If you've got the opportunity, you know, if you feel like you can, you know, get yourself some merch. But yeah, I think it's t-shirts at the moment, 2 designs. There are more coming, so if you don't like any of the stuff we've got at the moment, please do go down, have a look, and you know, catch it out later. Then we've also got all of the Facebook links and all of the stuff there. We've also got another game being streamed this weekend on Sunday, and I believe it's going to be at 2:30 in the afternoon in UK time. So that'll be what? Horrible time. Can't work out time zones. East Coast USA. That will be 7:30.
9 a.m. I think.
Yeah, no, yeah, right, 9, 9:30. Yeah, 9:30.
9 in the morning.
In US East Coast, 3 more hours. What,
too early
6?
for the West Coast.
6:30 in the morning for West Coast. Yeah. Do you even see 6:30 anymore, Carlo?
Not even West Coast 6:30. No.
No. You're not even awake by then. So yeah. So we've got that game coming on Sunday. and that'll be Stannis versus Furioku. I'm a bit sad that me and Carlo were lumbered with this one. Not because this is going to be a bad game. I think this is going to be a superb game. But I really like Stannis. I really want Stannis to win, to be honest. Carry the
Yeah, would
Baratheons
have
to
loved
victory.
would have loved to talk about the Baratheon versus Free Folk interaction there.
Hmm.
Me is now a more regular Baratheon player than anything else. Mickey, a long-time Free Folk player. But instead, we get to talk about what is going to be a very skill-based matchup. Now we have two very
Siege.
similar armies. We have an interesting terrain deployment um,
Palisades and corpse piles.
with the palisades blocking off one half of the battlefield and the corpse piles slowing down the other half. It's very non-committal from both players, very non-engagement. Um,
And they're both
so
taken They've both taken non uh, field-based commander lists, which means the scoring is going to be atrociously low, like they've said in chat. Um, it's it's going to be crazy. I think this is not going to be the game that me or you predicted,
no,
but it could be a very good game.
GG.
Yeah, GG.
And I would say if it, what's interesting is I think that Ariakas' idea to put the dogs at the back is the right one. Larks will presumably not be aggressive with the dogs, and we see the first pair of marks come down, and they are Stormcrow mercenaries onto Rickon's unit from each side, which are faced off against each other. Quite an interesting mirror pair there.
Yeah.
I guess the only other dynamic really going on here is we have Stormcrow archers, which are now marked in the center of the table from Ariakas, versus possible Cranigman trackers. You know, Cranigman are not the same kind of unit, but they still have that maneuver and then shoot at short range. So they still have an influence of close to 14 inches
Yes.
for what they can attack, but they're not staying at 14 inches while they attack.
Mhm.
So the Stormcrows do allow some pressure to be applied, but they are directly opposite some Tully Sworn shields. So they will soak up a lot of hits and a lot of damage there.
Yeah.
The closer we look at this, the more perfectly mirrored this game is. We see Stormcrow archers in the center versus Tully Sworn shields in the center, both placing their mirror cunning trapper right in the center of the table
Yeah.
and trying to force the dogs wide, force as big a zonal area as they can of control there.
So interestingly, the Stormcrow Archer mark from Larks, I think, is an interesting one. Um, you know, those archers kicking out more damage, and specifically Stark Outriders on Larks' side as well. This is a unit that me and you have talked about at length in our predictions, and a unit that has done very well at the tournament. I cannot overstate how good Stark Outriders have performed in the tournament. With, if you disclude mirrors, a 70% win rate. It is the pretty much with a large enough sample of games anyway, it is the best thing in the game right now. So, you know, Stark Outriders being on Larks, do you think that's really going to swing the game? Um, so we see more NCUs being deployed, being placed down.
So
Walder
we
coming
we
out.
we see our first Walder come down, and it's onto the crowns. It's onto the money bags, of course, which means that the response we both were waiting each other's Walder out because they want to apply Walder uh, before or after the other can take money bags to heal the wound.
Yeah.
What's going to be important is that Larks has first turn, second turn, and I believe his first activation will be Walder onto Moneybags, killing Summer, which he is already wounded.
Well, no,
Um,
Larks had first turn this turn, right?
uh, but Ariakas has 3 NCUs down, so I assume
Oh
that it's
yeah, that's right. I
Ariakas
assume Ariakas
who
went first this turn.
who had first turn,
Yeah, you must be right.
which I assume is Larks' choice, because going first on the second round is very important into this Walder Walder matchup.
Why is there a faith token on Summer? Is that tray not
I'm
working?
unsure. It maybe represents a wound,
It might be that the
but I
tray's not
don't know.
working. Yeah, it must be a wound. Daryl in chat there briefly. Hi, Daryl. Our glorious leader. It's his birthday today, so he's reached the heady heights of 15 years old. Give him a cheer in chat for being really bigging up the teenage pregnancy rates in the UK. I feel like I can say this because he can't say anything back right now. Usually he would shout at me for that. No,
I'm
that's his
sure he'll
girlfriend.
sometimes shout at you.
So, who else have we got in chat? We've got, because I can look at the chat users you see nowadays. Got Pork Chop hanging about, so hi Pork Chop, you're quite regular around here now. Got Michael Rumsbum, who's becoming a regular on these streams, which is great to see. Punk isn't dead yet, great name, love it. Theo Phil, as I said earlier, Real Duggars is about, Vanyard, Tiet, not a name I recognise, but welcome. So, it looks like we're seeing the first jiggity of the game, and what on earth is Rickon doing?
He looks to be trying to be out of range of where the Stormcrow archers can end their turn. So wherever they end, he wants to not be within 12 inches of that. And effectively, he's decided that is they may approach all the way up to the palisade. The palisade here doing quite a bit of work in terms of it allows those archers to move quite aggressively forward and yet not be charged.
They aren't bowmen though, so they can't shoot over the palisade in the same way.
They can't, but they can draw a line of sight from any part of their base. So that is why they are off-centered.
Yeah.
And as long as one part of their base is sticking out, they can still claim a line of sight.
Yeah.
They measure range from their arrow, but they measure line of sight from anywhere in their front arc.
Yeah.
What we will see next turn, I'm relatively sure, is Larks take money bags, heal a wound onto Summer with Walder Frey, killing Ariakas' Summer. And we will probably see return fire from Ariakas' Walder Frey. It only buys Larks one turn because he will now counter, put that wound back on.
Yeah.
And then at the start of turn 3, Ariakas will presumably now kill Larks' Summer.
Yes.
This is effectively unstoppable. The only thing that is going to increase the speed of this or give one an advantage over the other is going to be Bog Devil Ambush, which is going to cause automatic hits when an enemy activates. If an extra 1 or 2 wounds can be done by that card, then one of them can gain the upper hand from that trade.
Yep.
Otherwise, the only way to really use that to your advantage is if you can put your opponent in a position where they really don't want to take money bags or use Walder as their first action.
Yep.
So we'll see if either of them can use the tempo, use the positioning at the back end of one round into the start of the next round to try and apply pressure to their opponent in that way.
So Carlo's been mentioning a lot about Bog Devil Ambush. Now, this is obviously the Stark Mirror here, and we are going to see these kinds of cards come out. So here we got the card for you. It's D3 plus 2 automatic hits, right? And that's just when they activate. And if they're within the long range of the Cranagman, they suffer -1 for the defense. So this is where things like the Cranagman trackers over here are really beneficial. Am I right in saying Mira doesn't confer? No, she does. Mira does confer Cranagman as well. So both units having the Mira in the middle of the map, as we've said before, extend that long range of the effect. Yeah.
And that -1 can really make an effect on a dog as to whether or not this is a passable effect or a quite likely to kill effect.
Yeah. Going back to chat, we've got hello, yeah, hello. Yeah, I'm a pure pro, clearly. Dog poke. God, I shouldn't have said that. And we've got Zemnas. Hi, Zemnas. Good day to you. Um, let's go for a little bit of a vote. We've seen some of the first things in chat here. We've seen how turn one is shaping up. We're going to see a couple more movements, and I doubt we'll see anything too crazy. So let's have a vote in chat. One, if you think, let's go for Larks. One for Larks, and two for Ariakas. Let's get some votes in there, and we'll see who people think are going to win this game. Who do you think, Carlo? Who do you think at this point? Make your decision. Or I'll make it for you.
I'm just considering all things. Larks. Interestingly, Larks almost was the more aggressive deployer, and now he seems to be retreating.
Mm-hmm.
He is being pushed. He is being pushed back, and will probably continue to be pushed back by the Stormcrow archers.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Umber Berserkers are the unit for me in this. I think the Umber Berserkers can do something explosive into the Kranigman trackers.
Yep.
I'm actually a little surprised that he didn't mark the Kranigman trackers and try and explode onto Larks's near flank as the viewers are looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I like the Umber Berserkers. I like their potential to make big outplays.
Yep.
And it looks like early on, some cards will matter, but really it's going to be a question of do either of them make a mistake? And I don't think either will. I think they have both clearly prepared for this game well. And we see our first Bog Devil ambush come down as soon as Summer activates. 4 hits, and that's a dead dog. Interestingly, I think that is a mistake in that it could have been played on Shaggy. It could have killed Shaggy. That was 2 wounds there rolled by the dice, and he could have allowed to continue pressure, and he could have killed Summer next turn anyway.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I really tend to agree that should be the case. Okay, right then. So Bog Devil Ambush coming out, as we saw there, being the first real big play of the game, I think. And that is 1 activation down, it is 1 dog down. But you're right, maybe he's going for Shaggy there would have been better. Let's see, Grisselug went for 2.
Tiny little things like that, it may have been optimistic, but it'd be good. If you score 1 wound, you have lost very little. If you score 2 wounds, you have wasted a big potential. And if you score no wounds, then nothing will have changed either way. The dogs have the same save, and I would like to have seen him pressuring all across the board and look for the opportunity to gain the upper hand rather than just the opportunity to level the playing field on the fact that he has been presumably forced. I don't actually know who picked, but I assume that Larks picked to go second on the first turn.
I think first unit deployed, if I remember correctly, was
one of the dogs. Yes, from Ariakas. Ariakas deployed his 2 direwolves at the back of the deployment before anything else went down.
Yeah.
So yes, Ariakas chose side and deployed first, and Larks chose turn, and he chose second turn.
Just a big shout out to some of the chat. What's going on? Michael Rumspun, saying that Larks is pretty strong, and then people saying Ariakas is strong. We've got, in terms of votes, we had Grusselug put his name into the hat, and he said 2, so he reckons Ariakas will take it, and Porkchop reckons it'll gonna go to Larks. And then there are some people trolling us in chat, as always. What would life be without a bit of a Friday afternoon troll, saying that Starks are gonna win? What do you think about that, Carlo? Are Starks gonna win this game? Serious face.
I am relatively convinced, even though things have gone completely different to the way I thought this game was going to go. I'm relatively convinced that Starks are going to win the tournament.
Oh wow!
Whoever goes on from this game, I think, is the favorite for the final. I think that Starks are very likely to win in Game of Thrones.
I'll just remember to clip that this time, so I can hear you say that Starks are going to win now. So when Starks lose next week to a fantastic Baratheon or Free Folk player, we can all laugh at you.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm willing to commit to it.
Cool.
You know,
Cool.
I'll stick by it. I'll make my predictions. Hey, what can I say? We got 4 out of 4 in the semi-final. We got 7 out of 8 in the quarterfinal.
We did.
We're on a roll, Mickey. We can't be stopped.
That means I've just got to vote deliberately to stop you. So I think Lannisters are going to win this particular game just to spruce things up, and we're going to see Chris Eustace in the final with his Lannisters. There you go. Or so Cisgender. So Cisgender's playing Lannisters, isn't he? I think he'll make it to the final randomly. There you go. There's my stuff for me. Some people saying Ariakas, some people saying Larks.
You're pretty much predicting that I've managed to screw up the Swift draw so badly that it's not going to pair the two undefeated players against each other.
Yes. Well, actually, I know that you haven't because I predicted these matchups as well exactly at the time, and I even put the things out for them saying these are what the matchups will be before the matchups actually were announced. If you know the system, you can play the system a little bit. Dead dog dough. Yeah. Hello, dead dog. Pork Chop thinks Larks' list is better for this game. I would tend to agree. I think the Cranagman Trackers bring a relatively cheap but versatile unit, and I really, really do love the Stark Outriders at the moment. I think statistically, in this tournament, they are by far the strongest unit, and they are one of the most consistent performers of the tournament as well.
Interestingly, as soon as Larks has seen the House Umber Berserkers, basically he's waited for his very last activation to be these Cranagman Trackers. They have now marched up the field, and we'll see he's putting himself within 14. We'll see whether or not he goes for an aggressive Arya first activation into a shot, which would still allow him to take
like a march out or something.
Zone. So now, interestingly, he's no longer interesting because of the fact that he Bog Devil ambushed Summer and killed him rather than Bog Devil ambushing Shaggy Dog. Larks is no longer pressured into taking money bags as his first choice.
Yes, that's true.
Probably, I think I might like to see him use Arya into a free maneuver at the start of the round. Use these Cranagman Trackers to take a maneuver and a shot, and then use Walder Frey onto swords this time to take another shot. That will be quite a lot of dice into the Berserkers. It could be quite risky, though, because the countercharge, if the unit survives, which you think it probably will, could be quite devastating. We'll see whether or not he's willing to take that risk, and it depends a little bit on if he has any cards which he thinks can force through that kind of damage.
Yeah.
The House Berserker, the Umber Berserkers are, I believe, not within 6 inches of either the corpse piles, and they have great base morale. So you have to be trying to do 12 wounds with actual dice. You're not expecting to get any panic damage through.
Yeah. Now, annoyingly, I'm gonna have a go at Larks now, just on stream. He hasn't got his unit cards out, so he's probably deleted them or hidden them somewhere. So I can't scan over them and remind people of the stats. But this is where I set this up earlier, so I can just quickly whip them out for us. There we go. Boom. There we go. So there's the Cranagman stats there for anyone who's not sure, and they're tiny. So let's make them a bit bigger for everybody. So we can see the Cranagman stats there on stream. So 8 dice with the shots. So they can actually, in theory, 8 dice on 4s. With the Cranagman Warden in as well, so getting the rerolls. I reckon there's a good chance they're going to be getting 6 hits with each shot, which is enough.
6 hits would be 12? Asking for all the fails. Berserkers to fail no saves, though, if you're looking for them to 2-shot this unit.
Yeah.
I think that we need to see more patience. And what we see Larks take Walder Frey. He's presumably going to kill. Yep, he's going to kill Summer, and he's taken Letters, the much stronger position of the pair, rather than being forced to take money bags.
Yeah,
and I think that is. I think that's unfortunate. That is a big missed opportunity for Ariakas already.
Yeah, definitely. So we see Howland coming out to horses. So this obviously is a big thing to shout out with obviously the Stark deck. A lot of the Stark deck is very strong with horse control. So he's going to be, oh, and are we going to see the, yeah, so the Berserkers are just saying, look, we don't care if we're in range. I am coming for you. Um,
Yeah,
I,
this is where I think that Ariakas can win the game by going just that single point up from a unmarked unit, killing an unmarked unit, and he has the explosive potential with the Berserkers on this flank. I like his odds going
yeah,
into Crannogman trackers.
yeah.
And
And they can't back
and
off.
really Larks is pressured because he doesn't want to send the Stormcrow Mercs or Shaggy Dog over to help in any real way because that is a
Free
real risk and
VPs.
that could be the whole game.
Yeah. So this is actually, this was perhaps a very clever marking on Ariakas's part, where he marks Rickon's unit to really push it out of the game. But it's not just pushing it out of the game. It almost segregates the Kranigman trackers to be on their own, right? It's it's almost like he said your unit that you'd want to support this unit can no longer do it risk free. And he's not actually applying any pressure to that unit in order to do it. He just marked it. Whereas
Yeah.
the marking from Larks, although I don't disagree too much with the marking, it feels very kind of like I don't feel from Ariakas's perspective that the marking that Larks has done has had any impact on me. I feel like these are units he was probably going to mark. Whereas the way that Larks is deployed has segregated the unit. Now, this one-on-one matchup is going to come down to who wins it, right? Whoever wins this one-on-one matchup is going to really show, I think, the other
Who,
player up.
whoever wins this one-on-one matchup applies a ton of pressure to their opponent, and
We see
their
swords.
opponent is now in a position where they must make plays, and yet we are seeing them both. But they're both avoiding combat as much as possible, and as soon as one of them goes down, it's going to cause them to have to scramble for position, and we'll see how much patience they have at that point.
So
We
hits for
see a
four hits.
thanks to Howland's effect, we see a relatively ineffective shot.
Yeah. Oh, big shout out to Zemnas for the follow. Zemnas 2500. Thanks, mate. See what's going on in chat quickly. Yeah, Etienne giving us the video in video. Content some points. Yeah, cool. So how many was that? Just the one, and then oh, that's a terrible save. Ho ho ho! 4 more dead from the panic.
4 from the morale check. That is very unlucky, but interestingly, it does increase their damage potential just a bit.
So these berserkers, 9 dice, hitting on 4s because of the Howland. Running into these Kranigman. If I'm right, Kranigman trackers 6 up save. Well, it
Yeah.
will be with Sundering anyway. What's the morale on them? Is it 5 or 6? I can't remember. I just had the unit card up. Kranigman tracks. So they suffer -2. Whoops. -2, and they are weakened as well. But I still think he's in anyway, right? 6 movement. -2 is going to be 4.
I think that this is actually a bit of bait here, and I think Ariakas is going to be on the wrong end of this by the time that the Kranigmen have retreated from this combat. And I believe they can shoot again, right, after a maneuver or retreat.
I believe it's definitely maneuver. I'd have to look up retreat. Let's get the unit card back up.
If
It is
it's
after
retreat,
maneuver or retreat. Yeah.
Yep. So I think that they're going to get maneuver back, take more hits, and between the Howland effect and the weakened token, I think that the Berserkers will be surprised at how little damage they do here. He is hoping for a decent panic fail to really push through and double that damage.
He has got
Yeah, I mean,
a cards in hand though. There might be some addition to this that we see come out. Oh my god.
Michael Rumswam commenting on the saves, but as we always know, like actually the panic's what does the damage here, and the luck was more than reversed in a failed panic check. So that was actually an incredibly unlucky set of defensive dice in total from Ariakas.
So we saw 7
He's
hits
got
go
some
through, but the weaken
good
comes on.
good set of hits on that first initial roll. The
Wow.
weekend doesn't do a lot,
6.
and we see 6 hits. This still could be quite explosive. We're not going to see the unit get tabled,
No.
but we'll see whether or not it's strong enough to be effective to really do any more damage.
So it's 5
The
wounds.
advantage that the Berserkers have is that their sustain is very high, whereas the explosive potential of these
Is that a pass?
trackers really does go down and decay.
No, that's a fail. 3 more dead. 7 morale on the trackers, and that's 7 there with the -1 for the corpse piles as a fail. So they're down to 1 rank. So I'll just bring the unit card back up. That is 4 dice. 4 dice now. That's not going to be enough to kill these berserkers. Realistically, it's just not going to be enough.
Not without expecting or hoping for a failed panic check.
Now he could drop money bags. Oh no, he can't. He's used all of his. He's used all of his things. So
interestingly, we see Larks go for the crowns here. He's trying to crown zap these archers who are panicked, but leaving open the
5.
money bags in response is a very interesting choice because presumably whatever damage might come down on the unit will be countered easily by money bags. And he also leaves Ariakas the choice to go and put those heals back somewhere else if he wants. That crowns will only ever achieve you 4 wounds, whereas the money bags will always heal you 3 back.
Especially given that you're going to get a shot probably from these
that.
guys. He's almost definitely going to get a shot from the Gradingman trackers, so it seems silly not to heal them up. I don't understand that play. Maybe it's because of Walder coming out. He wanted to take crowns so he couldn't just drop Walder and do the extra wound onto Shaggy now. So it's more it's more a defensive play than crowns looks. But see, this is yeah, classic.
Now,
These Outriders just get
now
charged by Shaggy
interestingly,
if they go in.
Interestingly, Ariakas leaves the zone open, and having that zone open and going into being the first activation of round 3, he leaves on the table the chance that he might play a sudden charge at any given time, and it is something that Larks now has to play around.
Yeah. So, Larks needs to make sure he capitalizes on those dice. Yes, he does. I would be surprised if we see Larks come back with these Kranigman trackers at all. I can see the retreat coming out, and they might go a long, long way. But if he wants the shot, he can't go that far. He's thinking Shaggy Dog into the side of these berserkers, which, yeah, the panic is bad. Like it's a big -3 in total, -4 even with vicious corpse pile and flank, -4 morale check. But even then, he can only kill 2, so he literally cannot kill the berserkers with Shaggy Dog. It's not a feasible possibility. So it feels a little bit kind of like Last Ditch Saloon. So I don't know. You could turn off a unit's abilities now with Walder. I mean, actually, yeah, don't you just Walder money bags with the now and drop Walder onto the Crowningman trackers?
But Ariakas is his player 2, and he doesn't control crowns, so he only does the 1 wound. He doesn't get rid of effects.
That's true. I forgot. Yeah. So we see.
Yeah. So Zemnis is saying maybe he takes crowns to stop Walder from crownsing and removing their abilities, allowing them to the shot on the retreat. But I don't think that the shot, the 4 fights that he can are worth anything right now. What's important is that they get far enough away that they're not a liability anymore.
Yeah. So he is going to see a retreat here, and I think he's going to go. I assume this is a retreat.
He also can't retreat into the center of the board because the Stormcrow archers will simply kill him, really. And that's even worse than the
Holy,
berserkers
he's
killing him.
attacking?
We see him stay in combat and make an attack, which
Doesn't hit with a
I'm
single
very
dice
much not sure about.
because of Howland. I mean, to be fair, if the option he backs off, there's the option of sudden charge out of Ariakas, which is a very strong play as a counter. But yeah, so we see he just says like, activate Sansa, you do something else now.
And it's very interesting that Sansa doesn't take a zone. I mean, it's a nice play, and continue to leave it on Larks' mind that could be coming. It also leaves Walder able to take a zone, applying his influence effect.
Evening Terror.
Sansa was never going to claim a zone, so he's just playing, seeing what Larks is going to do. On a turn when Larks chose to be first player this turn, he's now having to be forced to do useful stuff, and it's ambush managed to even up the activations.
Yeah. Take the
what
moment.
he hoped and expected would happen was he would kill a direwolf with his first activation and have an extra direwolf left to delay and wait the turn out, but he had lost Summer before the round even began.
Yeah. I'll take the moment to give a shout out to Grusselug13. Grusselug's, I think, one of the players in the tournament, if I remember rightly. I can't remember where he's positioned at the moment. But best of luck to him in his, if he hasn't played his round 5, obviously his round 5 and also round 6 games. But also thanks for the Twitch Prime sub. Cheers, Grusselug. So, I don't know.
So I think what they're both players need to be considering right now, and as probably mind as experienced Stark players, are the North Remembers.
Yes.
Very important. When Larks is looking at Shaggy Dog, sending him forward, I wonder if he's looking to sacrifice him to reactivate something.
Yeah.
North be a big play. Sudden charge actually is the big one, which Ariakas is effectively pretending that he has.
Yes.
But really, a devastating impact has much lesser effect now that the dogs are relatively neutered and very far away from each other. That otherwise could have been one way that the dogs would have been hunting each other.
Yes. Yeah, but they were deployed fairly far away from each other, and even Ariakas said he didn't want to commit to that game by moving his to the right flank compared to Larks' relative left. So, yeah, it's not. I don't know. Are they going to make? They're going to make the shot. They're in range. They can see around the corner of the palisades. So yeah. Good luck tomorrow morning.
A lot of times. I would like him to try and get as many shots off as possible to get through that shield wall ability. Obviously, it is an order, so the first time is not going to do a lot. They can use motivated by coin with the money bags being left open.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Leaving specifically the money bag slot open for the second shot. Yeah, it's potentially good. Very strong. So
the question for me is
oh, look at this tactical shuffling.
Does Ariakas have sudden charge, and is he willing to use Rickon late in the turn to move forward and then try and sudden charge the Cranham trackers in the flank? That would score him 2 VPs for killing a unit with a marked unit, and it would surely be enough wounds to guarantee it. The question is does that allow for the North Remembers play to counter it? And would that leave him open to possibly a Stormcrow mercenary countercharge from Larks?
Could you instead set, because Ariakas is going first this turn, right? Next turn.
Ariakas will be first next turn, yeah.
Could he set up for the counter charge for the the sudden charge next turn, where he marches up now, and then he'll take Walder onto Moneybags this turn. He can kill Shaggy with Walder's influence next turn,
Next
first
turn,
activation, and he
while
can also
also,
sudden charge.
yeah.
That seems to me like a very powerful play. And aside from an Aria play coming out of Larks, I don't see a way that Larks can avoid that.
It would probably force an area response.
Yeah.
And could be, yeah, and is a very interesting idea. This is all under the assumption that Ariakas has sudden charge, but he
Of
is
course.
very much posturing like he does.
But
If
maybe that's
we
a
see a
threat.
commit Dragon Dog, I expect to see an aggressive move to take those points with Rick on.
Yes.
We might even see a charge into the flank of these Berserkers right now. I think that this is likely that I'm seeing
He's
this.
going. He's going.
Either Locke acknowledges that Shaggy Dog will be dead at the start of next turn anyway because of the double Walder activation, and so he's trying to get some use out of him. Otherwise, he is using him as North Remembers bait.
Yeah. Both of these are good options. Both of these are viable options. I mean, at most, Shaggy can kill with everything going Larks' favour. He can leave one Berserker left, which does require probably the Kranagman trackers to do it. Devastating Impact. Okay. So Larks doesn't control horses, so this is just going to be...
But he scores a double 6 on the charge.
Wow. So he's definitely in, and he's going to be hitting with 4s. Oh.
I don't know exactly what he needed, but...
What is going on there?
Do they...
What on earth?
They possibly need to move the card. Is Howland blocking?
Yeah. I'll quickly jump into... There's something not loaded all of a
Can
sudden.
be just manually positioned.
Yeah. So I don't know why it was doing that.
I would say, I know it is
There we go. Leave it that.
there is some discussion around this, but I would say that this is technically an illegal position for the dog to be in. He is neither in 100% nor 50%, and he can be in either.
Yes.
So he should either be a little further away from Ariakas or central.
So there is someone saying that it's an old tray bug. So there's a good chance that one of the players here is using old trays. That is actually probably true. I did notice that.
So we see a -3 down, but Direwolf's further, a big play. Cool. And because he controls... Oh, no, sorry, Lark controls swords. So I was thinking that would have been a countered dead dog without any activation required. But what was a flank corpse pyre -4 is now just a -1.
Which is a pass with 6.
Which is a success.
So this unit can die. Now, this is the thing. This unit is possible to kill because the failed panic check can always kill 4. So this unit can possibly die, but it looks like he's pivoting and he's measuring to go for a charge.
He looks to be able to achieve a 9, but not an 8 through the corpse pile would be a pair of 5s.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a charge that that Larks just achieved. We'll see whether or not he's willing to take that risk on. Instead, he's either wanting to do it as his first activation next round, or, like we were saying, avoiding that play around the North Remembers. or he's looking to pressure and take a sudden charge, or just guarantee a sudden charge.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be interesting, actually, to know whether or not Mira Reed is currently in range of Shaggy Dog, and if really
Actually, that's a good point.
there is any need for, if there's any need at all for him to destroy Shaggy without just allowing him to activate and kill himself at some point.
Yeah. So Mgus is not probable to kill Shaggy if it's disorderly. That is true. If it is a disorderly charge, he's unlikely to kill Shaggy. And so actually, interesting, he doesn't go for it.
If he takes on the sudden charge, I believe it's a guaranteed 6 that's ordered because he controls
Horses, yeah.
horses, or is that only an effect of
That's devastating impact, not.
It may, sudden charge may have a reroll effect.
Give me 2 seconds and I will find out for you using my lovely ability.
I am at a loss for the exact specifics of what the start
sudden
tactics
charge.
do.
Let's go for sudden charge. There we go. So sudden charge. It is not auto 6.
Does it give a reroll or anything like that?
Horses gives vulnerable.
It's vulnerable.
Yeah. So I'll just quickly leave you with chair stream and Carlo talking some rubbish. I'm gonna refill a drink. What do we think about the positioning here then going into next turn? Do you definitely think that we're going to see our sudden charge play? Do you think that is what we're going to see?
Well, we currently see Larks making a swift advance play onto the position of Rickon here. I think he's looking to pressure him. He may be looking to go for a long bomb charge here, but I think between the palisade and the corpse pile, the angle that the palisade gives requires him to go through the corpse pile, which is going to be a very long charge for the Tully Swan shields. And it's becoming ever more important that Howland is controlling horses for Ariakas right now.
Yes.
Instead, he seems to take his actual activation to now readdress the position. He doesn't. I mean, if that's just his maneuver from the swift advance, I'm unsure where he wants to end up.
No, I think
he's possibly just trying to exert pressure with Mira by being very aggressive with that unit.
I think that is the full double move because they don't move very well, remember? Pardon me. So I do think that is the full double move there. My voice is going. Serves me right for being on the phone all day and talking to people and teaching people things. God, who'd have a job, eh? Right. So yeah,
the action is now slowly, unit by unit, all being drawn over to this left-hand side.
Yes.
And it's gonna become bloody at some point. I think that they have both now effectively decided that they will have to commit their Stormcrow mercenaries. They're going to look to try and attack and get out of danger, if possible.
So we see Walder come out and he does the 1 wound to the Cranningman trackers. What?
Do we possibly see him also sudden charge? Oh, no.
1 to the Tully Swan swords.
But
sudden charge. We
see sudden charge, and it looks like he is expecting the Stormcrow mercs have enough to kill Shaggy Dog. Don't forget, they are marked, so they are rolling 9 dice.
But that is
for anybody who thought that they were unlikely to achieve it. They
are
disordered. Charge. They are disordered, but they're going to be looking at 4.5 charge and vulnerable.
Yeah.
All make this seem like quite a. Yeah, we see the traps from Mira come down for just a single wound, and I think that this will be enough to kill Shaggy.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if it's not.
So that's a lot of dice. What, 1, 2, 3, 4? They don't hit on threes, do they? 4? Four's
They'll
not
hit
great.
on fours. Yeah, just 4 hits.
Flank charge, he's
But
dead,
with the
right?
flank, he's already dead without the vulnerable needing to come into play. That's a 2-point score because of the marked unit, and I expect to
3?
see the Stormcrow
Yeah, 2
Mercs
points.
retreat and try and get us.
Yeah.
And this Palisade and Corpse Pile is really starting to become an issue for these Tully Swan shields. Their movement 3 movement 3 through a Corpse Pile is starting to really hurt them. They are never within an inch of the Palisade to get rid of it.
Yep.
And I think that Ariakas has got the best of this positioning right now, and that's before we even come into him having the first activation next round. Having killed off Shaggy, he also has eased up his requirement to use Walder as his first activation to kill him off. He could well take swords to destroy the Kranigman trackers. He has a lot of options on his plate now coming into the turn, and I think that he is in control of this game.
Yes. One thing it's worth mentioning, Larks. I've focused on them a lot in this game. The Stark Outriders. These Stark Outriders have yet to make an impact in the game.
Yeah,
they're yet to make their activation this turn, but they are a strong unit. The problem is that this is probably like the worst position for them because they want to come around the flanks. They want to get these nice charges off, and they've just got a block of Stark Sworn swords with Shaggy Dog next to them. Like,
yeah,
they're the one unit in this game who really do not care if they get charged in the front by Stark Outriders.
They have a block of Sworn Swords, very interestingly positioned. They are close enough to the edge of the table such that the Stark Outriders can't fit in their flank.
Yep.
They can only be charged in the front, and because of the positioning of the Berserkers, they can only be charged 100% or towards the edge of the deployment zone. And he has deployed further enough away from these palisades so that the Berserkers can then counter with a flank charge onto these Stark Outriders. This is a position that those Outriders really don't want to be in and cannot do much about.
Yep.
I think that Ariakas and this positioning and use of palisades has significantly outplayed Larks in the deployment phase of this game. And Larks is currently trying to make up for the fact that he is under pressure to do something now, and Ariakas has always planned Larks to have to take the impetus of the game. And
yep.
Right now, when these Berserkers presumably begin the turn and destroy the Kranigman trackers, unless we see Arya. Actually, interestingly, Arya, I've just checked, Arya can only make a maneuver action, not a retreat action.
Damn.
So we need to see Arya do something very soon to have an impact on this game because...
Threat Unseen coming out. So they're damaged. They've got to make a... This is why the crowns maybe come out onto them for this. They suffer a panic test at minus none. But they are panicked because they're in short range. Long range even. So we see 2. They are panicked.
It's enough to drop the rank, so he may well just leave that panic token there. But considering how much he's in control, he will now just want to value the money bags and keeping what units he has alive as much as possible. So it may be worth just throwing out that panic token to do an extra wound or 2. He rerolls the dice and gets nothing. So, but I think that they will be targeted as soon as possible with a money bags, and decisions like that where Larks is now being forced to get as much as he can out of a token whenever he can, as opposed to being able to control when it gets used, are the kind of plays that you see generated by pressure on the board elsewhere.
Yeah. So we see this shot coming out from Ariakas onto Larks. Is he going for... Oh, has he changed his mind? Is he going for the Tully Sworn Shields? He's definitely in range, and he can see them.
Walder Frey isn't shutting off their abilities because he's neither first player nor controls the crowns. So the Tullys would all hits that he received.
So the dice
I think
marked. Oh, not great.
I think he may well be shooting into into the Stark Swan swords, because that is a marked unit. Never forget that in Fire and Blood, as long as your opponent still has marked units, you are at risk of huge swings.
Yes.
No more so than with Starks, who have the ability to get that unit from an almost zero aggression position into a very aggressive place, into making charges that you weren't expected in no time at all.
So there is one issue here. The only real area plays we can see will be from these two units, the Tully Sworn Shields or the Stormcrow Mercenaries. Because these Stark Sworn Swords are stuck. They can go through the middle, but they can never charge the Berserkers because of the positioning on the Berserkers. They can never go through, effectively complete their charge through that gap. Now, people say that this is a problem with the player place terrain. People say that there's issues with this. But part of this is understanding that Ariakas has developed the pressure, so Larks has to make a move through this gap, but he's unable to until one of the palisades are destroyed. And he's not even going to use the cavalry to do it. He's running the cavalry off. They're going to go round, and they're going to come round and help Rickon on this left flank relative to the stream.
But that's a long way round. They will be dead, and that side of the board from Ariakas will presumably have retreated before that happens, and there will be plenty of time for Ariakas to take the short distance across, presumably all the while protecting the areas where players can fit through these palisades and making impossible charges along the way.
Yeah.
I think possibly the oversight from Larks, we weren't massively clued into the deployment of these pieces of terrain, is that Larks allowed Ariakas to set up these two palisades exactly 6 inches away from each other. He did not intervene and place a piece of terrain between them. If you wanted to stop this position from happening, you had 100% chance to do so.
Yes.
You choose to not when your opponent places a palisade, and then you place nothing close to it, meaning that your opponent can now place a second palisade anywhere that they want within a certain zone of...
To be fair, though, if Ariakas placed terrain first and went for the palisade in the direct middle, there is nothing Larks can do, because Larks either plays one terrain to the left or
That's
the
true.
right.
I hadn't considered that. Yeah.
So
he can only cover one side or the other, and the second palisade will always be able to set up this situation.
But then you would play away from it. You'd deploy away from it, right? You wouldn't play into the gap. You'd actually play away from the gap.
Interestingly, I feel like these palisades play most into the Kranigman trackers, and yet the Kranigman trackers are the ones who have decided to deploy over on the corpse pile sides.
Yeah.
I wonder if Larks would have been better suited to have flipped his entire deployment.
The Stark
left
Outriders.
to right.
Stark Outriders
and had the Outriders have the opportunity to slog it through the corpse piles if they wanted, while the trackers danced in and around the palisades.
Yeah.
The question is are we going to see Larks try and make an Arya-based play? I don't see anything that he can do with it right now, and it's Ariakas' first activation, so he will presumably counter any significant move. I expect he is going to now have to plan for Arya to be played on his 4th round, and he's going to have to be patient, not lose this turn by too much, and then try and make big wins on the 4th round. We actually do see something Arya come down.
And this is the Rickon moving up into the gap. This makes a lot of sense. It puts threat on the Berserkers, because now if the Berserkers do kill these Kranigmen, the Rickon unit can charge in, and it is likely that those Stormcrow Mercs will finish off those Berserkers, I'd have thought. And this actually puts a bit of pressure on Ariakas, because he probably has to kill the Kranigman trackers early in this turn.
I assume that we will see him kill them first activation and then use his Surge fourth to get a long way away. I think that the
So is that
Stormcrow mercenaries will
Walder onto the Tully
be
Sworn Shields?
be nowhere near where they want to be after this activation is over, after he's taken these swords and destroyed this unit. He's chipping away at these Tullys, and he's this time taken away their abilities because he is first player. We see a whole fistful of dice come from the Berserkers on their last rank.
Three
there
misses.
is, and without Howland this time, we're really thinking this is all she wrote for them.
Yep.
We will probably
overrun Surge Fourth
interestingly,
backwards.
he's also lost Mira Reed for the round now.
Yes, he has.
And actually, he may even consider that he might even be able to get out of the Stormcrow. I wondered if a 5-inch maneuver forward would have got him out of the arc of the Stormcrow mercenaries. It would have been dangerous, though, because he leaves open the horses to counter with a maneuver, but they have not yet activated. So getting into the flank of that Stormcrow Merc unit could have been a nice position. Instead, he retreats, which is now drawing Larks into him. Don't forget that he is now, he's now, I believe, 5-1 up. It should be.
4-1.
He scored four, two for the dogs, a third for the Kranigman, and 1 extra point for destroying a dog with a marked unit.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, marked units, for those of you who aren't so sure in chat, for Larks it's the purple and the blue bases. The blue are the marked ones. For Ariakas it is the yellow bases with white and yellow bases. Yellow are marked. Red Scorpion, you hate Starks so much, but seeing them kills each other is mwah. Yeah, I agree, Red Scorpion. Terra hates free folk. Well, I hate you, Terra.
So, interestingly, Walder is now starting to have much more value for Ariakas now that he's no longer pressured to try and kill the dogs. That Bog Devil ambush really tipped the scales in his favor. And as I said at the start, why are you playing Howland? The only card I can see is Bog Devil ambush, the one that's going to have any effect on this game. And Ariakas has drawn it, and Larks has not. It seems he has not yet played it, but he is now not even using Walder onto Shaggy Dog, so he seems to have given up on getting that free VP, getting that extra activation back, unless he has Bog Devil Ambush in his hand now, and he is thinking that he wants to try to he wants to try and kill off Shaggy Dog in a mirror-like move.
So Walder came onto Crowns. He did a morale check on the Stormcrow Archers, but then they passed, which they might not have passed if he hadn't used the panic token the turn before. And so they have no abilities, but then he just moneybags them up and then drops Howland Reed over on Rickon and goes, right, yeah, go on then, your turn.
And Moneybags has so much value to Ariakas right now because all he has to do is tough for Larks. The pressure's on him entirely. All his best units can't do anything on that Palisade side of the board. And he's going to have to make a play with his Rickon Stormcrow Mercs into these Berserkers, I believe, because the Berserkers are still very dangerous. He's going to have to set up to do something late this turn into the start of next turn.
Yep. So Emger saying that Howland is great at finishing off units, especially if they've got low numbers of wounds. Which is very true. Howland exerts pressure in a similar way to like free folks lists do, and other lists where they'll just do a little bit of wounds to you every now and then, and it sucks. It's really annoying, but they really are good at finishing off those small units. And Terra, how do you not get your ass beat by giants? I'm gonna go in on you, Terra. I've been mean to you once already. I'm gonna be mean to you again. Be better. Be better, Terra. No.
We see Larks take Howland Reed onto horses. This is quite an important play, not because of the maneuver that's going to come out, but because of control of horses, going to
Yes.
always be valuable depending on what cards you have in hand. But more importantly, in my mind, it says I don't have sudden charge. You give away the fact that you don't have it because we expect to see Sansa now come onto letters as an instant response, and there is no sudden charge left this turn. In the 3 versus 3 matchup here, if you are the second player in the Stark versus Stark matchup, playing your second NCU shows that you are not going to sudden charge this round.
Yes. So the tactics board is full. Like, that is what we're saying here. The tactics board is full, and there is no more shenanigans. This is going to be down to 6 on-field activations compared to 4. There's going to be activations that go unanswered here from Ariakas. And he can really set up, even going into the next turn, where he's going to actually be on the down turn. And we see Crannog traps come out. So I'm guessing that's Crannogman traps onto Rickon's unit. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So they're now at an embarrassing 3-minute movement. Plus anything good once any useful move probably wants to send them through a corpse pile. So that card alone seems to have entirely neutered the unit.
So the question
for what
here,
they might try and set up this turn.
I think the question here that they are trying to solve is, are they within long range? It's damn close in my opinion. It looks like they might be rolling for it. I'm not sure.
What's interesting is I felt like they measured this when the Stonker mercenaries made a maneuver, and at the time all they needed to do was acknowledge with each other that the intention was to not be within 12 inches.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they did agree on it. But I'm guessing they might not have agreed. He might have just been... Yeah, he's outside 12 there, definitely. He still gets a -2 anyway, and it looks like... Yeah, it looks like they're not weakened by the looks of things, so it looks like they are outside the 12. Okay, so...
But with only a 3-inch move on this maneuver, Larks is very much stuck for what to do.
So it looks like he doesn't really know what he wants.
If he goes forward, he puts himself at the mercy of the
2 charges?
The dual charge from the Stonker mercenaries and the weakened berserkers. The berserkers
Love that.
would presumably go in first and do all the damage, and then the Rickon's Stonker mercenaries would clean up and take all the points. But instead, he's just going to activate and end. Because
turn round basically.
Because that single card has managed to avoid any kind of really proactive positioning.
And this is perfect. This is
this is perfect from Ariakas' perspective.
Because he can now activate these units. He doesn't even have to go forward. He can come back. He can actually retreat from this line and go, look, I'm going to give you those corpse piles. You can come past the palisades. This is your land to come past now. But I now own you in activation advantage, and I can just retreat my entire frontage and make you have to come through in piecemeal and take you on.
Yeah.
I think...
It's interesting that he now has activation advantage, and he has shown in the past in a Stark matchup that he knows how to use it and apply pressure with it.
5 hits, 5 automatic hits onto the berserkers. This could be a dead berserker unit, which is, great. Is that 2? That's 2 fails, right? Or 3?
That's
4 fails.
4 fails, and the unit is gone.
Boom! Headshot.
That is a big play, but
The
we see North remembers.
Healing wounds to central.
I don't know what unit. He's just going to take the heals.
That's kind of worth it.
He doesn't have any units, there to reactivate, which is generally the bigger play. He still has the 5 play activation.
Yep. So Emga's saying like you said,
he
finish the unit off. Bogdell
yeah.
Ambush, man. It's a good card.
It is the by far most significant card I believe in this matchup. Obviously the the card of Chronic Traps looks to have just had an effect on what Larks could have been doing,
Hmm.
but I think that Bog Devil Ambush has to kill both dogs and kill off weakened units that I'm actually surprised, maybe because there hasn't been a significant other low health unit. I'm surprised that Ariakas hasn't used Sansa Stark to take Bog Devil Ambush back and apply more pressure with that.
Yeah. Okay. So we're seeing some measuring and some more decision making. While you're at it, we'll just do a various shout out. Obviously, if you've got free Twitch Prime subs, we'd love it if you spend them here, but of course you get them anywhere. They are free. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get a free subscription to your favourite streamer on Twitch, which I hope is us, but probably not, let's face it. I suck. You'll also find merch down below the video here, and there's merch, things like t-shirts and stuff like that you can purchase, and there's going to be more designs coming soon, so if you don't like any of the ones there at the moment, just keep popping your head in and see if there's any there that you like. So
we're coming into a really interesting part of the game. Larks is behind and he's under pressure right now, but he is about to play into his turn 4 when he's first. He used Arya last turn, and I felt it was a mistake at the time. He maneuvered his unit forward into a position which they've now done nothing with. After then, they could have effectively been in that position with Arya, and he's lost the effect for what he could have done with it in the 4th round. The question is what can he generate in the next round or two?
mm-hmm.
But don't forget, both players still have both of their marked units on the table. The opportunities for very explosive damage is still huge, and a single misplay, a single slip up will cost one of these players the game.
So, let's have a look. Larks loves his spare trays, doesn't it? Let's look at where this unit goes.
The players seem to be discussing basically the intricacies of these palisade positionings and whether or not there is any opportunity to get through the palisades. I think he's come to the conclusion that we have, which is you effectively are not allowed to charge through because of the way the berserkers are positioned.
Yep.
He's trying to do the same himself so that it now can't be done back to him. The question is whether or not he's within an inch of that palisade and whether or not he can destroy it. And I expect to see these Stormcrows start to just retreat and shoot. And the fact that Ariakas has the extra activation, but also the only ranged unit left on the board, and it is a marked unit too, allows him to continue to exert that pressure.
Yes, definitely. So, in terms of like what we're going to see from Larks really now, this unit of Stark Outriders, right? I know I keep coming back to it, and probably people are fed up with me with, yes, Mickey, we know there's a unit of Stark Outriders on the map. Yes, Mickey, we know that they're there. Yes, we know that they're there. But, like, are we actually going to see them do anything this game? Like, they've just kind of been sat there.
If they stand still and are kept paralyzed or in a standoff with a unit of Stark Sworn Swords, neither of which are marked. Currently, they're being entirely shut down by the positioning of the Stark Sworn Swords, which stop them from being able to make a charge. If
2 fails.
If they both accept that position and just have a standoff, then that is massively in Ariakas' favor. Not only because it's a 7 versus a 5-point unit, but because Larks needs to make something happen, and the Outriders are one of the best ways to make something big go. You see him continue to pressure the Tullys, Thanks to Walder Frey, he doesn't have his shield wall ability, so he's doing whatever damage he can at the moment.
So Terra's just said there a really good point with about the Stark Outriders, whereas if they just stay still for long enough, maybe they'll turn invisible. Because that's how I deal with difficult situations. Just stand still and then let the moment pass. I don't see how Larks really gets back into this game. He's stuck behind some palisades, and he's going to have to do some really bursty maneuver, really, to get into Ariakas. And as we know, he's chasing the game on VPs. This feels very much like what happened to De Border last weekend against Ariakas. Ariakas has nibbled away in the Stark Mirror, got a unit here, and then come back and gone, right, your turn to do something. Come at me, and I will pick you apart.
You say that, but his 2 marked units have bad morale, are worth a ton of victory points if they can be killed.
Yep.
And okay, they're currently on high health, but they can be exploded down very quickly if Larks can get into combat with them.
Yep.
I want to see him aggressively discard cards from his hand. What's interesting is he seems to have kept most of his hand most of the game, and yet they haven't done a lot for him.
Yeah.
Bog Devil Ambush has been his most impactful card by a long way. And really everything else, he's used a Swift Advance and an Arya Stark start of round maneuver, and yet he doesn't seem to be in any better position for having done it. I think that his biggest misplay so far has been the activation of Arya and the use of it to then do nothing aggressive off the back of it. He used it neither defensively nor aggressively.
And he did it on a turn where he was not going first.
And he used it on the turn that he was not going first, which is the classic place where it won't have as big of an impact. He felt that he was behind and he felt that he needed to pressure the game at that point, but I don't think that activation had the pressure that he wanted.
So interestingly, these invisible Stark Outriders have finally come across the board, and what do we see in return? Ariakas swings his Stark units onto the palisade and goes, I can kill this palisade now. And then you've got a unit of Berserkers, and a unit of Stark Sworn Swords, and Shaggy Dog coming down on this Stark Sworn Sword mark unit. This
I expect to see Shaggy position himself in a place where he can destroy the palisade if he wants, allowing the freeing up the Sworn Swords to do something else. But Shaggy, in that position, he would be the far side of the palisade, and he can easily fly into the flanks of these Sworn Swords in the future. He may, in that position, open himself up to the Stark Outriders coming back and trying to kill him for a VP. But I think that it would be a bit of a long shot and would really have slowed them down. We see a big threat unseen card come down. We see a failed panic check from the Tullys. They're panicked. They're on 2 wounds, and things are really not looking good for this unit. The only thing keeping Larks in the game right now is the fact that the units that he is allowed to take this damage, the units that are being picked apart by Ariakas, are all unmarked.
So you can see here, I mean, this is a sad state of affairs, isn't it? I feel very sorry for Larks here, where he's having to maneuver a unit of Tully Sworn Shields, almost like retreating them as far as they can, like they're running away from the Stormcrow mercenaries. And in response, just like we thought, Rickon's unit just goes, alright, I'll retreat. I'll just back off, increase the distance. And it hasn't even solved the problem. Like, the Stormcrow archers are still in range of the Tullys.
Larks is still more than a full turn away from generating any kind of charge through these palisades and corpse piles.
Yep.
He needs to get his Stark Outriders out from behind other units. He needs to get a palisade destroyed, or he needs to massively advance one of his units through the corpse pile so that it's in a position to charge. He doesn't have Arya to be aggressive with is important, but I think that this is a masterful use of activations and distancing by Ariakas. I think he really understands this matchup very well. And if you Larks has made less big plays. Ariakas has made a couple to begin the game, but now he's just showing a masterclass of understanding and controlling this matchup.
Yeah.
If you think that he is not a brilliant player after watching this and his other previous Stark matchup, then you don't understand the subtlety of the way he's controlling this game.
Yes. I mean, what I wanted to say about Larks, on the other hand, is we know Larks is a very strong player himself. He is chasing a game a little bit at the moment, so hopefully we'll see him pull it a bit closer. But is he part of the tabletop session group? Larks playing with the likes of with some of the better German players. Is that right?
His club affiliation is Tabletop Session.
Yeah. So he's a very strong player.
Position here from the Umber Berserkers from Ariakas. I believe once again they are positioned in a place where they're very close and aggressive to this palisade, and yet there is no position that they can be charged. You cannot engage with more than 50% in either arc. Although he's opened up his flank entirely, you cannot make a 50% contact thanks to that palisade. A palisade that he is now entirely in control of, and he can remove whenever he feels like.
Yes, which I think he will do this turn. I would not be surprised if we see swords come out just to get rid of that palisade, and then the Stark Sworn Swords will open up a path to Bran and Hodor. Okay, so we see them move into turn 4. It is Larks going first. I'll swap things around on the camera so we get it from Larks' perspective now. First activation then. What are we going to see?
What I would like to see now, the biggest play I would expect to see is I would expect to see Sansa Stark taking back a threat unseen if these Tullys haven't been healed by a Moneybags very early in the turn. I would expect him to try and block Moneybags and use threat unseen to have a very high likelihood of killing off these Tully Swan shields when they activate. He can also pressure them with crowns, with them being close to this corpse pile, panicked, and Larks acknowledges what a dangerous situation he was in and uses the Moneybags defensively to heal up the unit and get rid of that panic token.
So yeah, Emga, I quite like the new deployment. The charge rules and the new alignment rules. I think the new alignment rules are good for the game, but I do agree that having these situations arrive is a bit strange. What I would say is obviously it's a problem that you have to deal with, and that as a player, we should know that these things exist, and then obviously we should come with plans to deal with them or not play into them. A lot of what Larks is troubling with is, he started his deployment on this left flank and he's had to shift to the right flank. And if he'd have just deployed on the right flank, it would have been better. So Theo, it's the 50% or 100%. Now, interestingly, if you can't have 100 and you can't have 50, but you fit somewhere in the middle, that's fine. But for example, this Stark Sworn Sword unit is currently unchargeable in the front, because more than 50% is covered by this palisade, so you cannot charge this unit in the front. And if you look in the flank, it certainly wouldn't be chargeable in this front segment of the flank because of this palisade. There might be room at the back segment, but then you'd have to be in the flank, so somewhere like Shaggy Dog could just get in there. Rear's obviously fine, but flank here again, there's no room. So the only place this unit can actually be charged is exactly here or in the rear at the moment. Even though it looks like he's clearly open and clearly got line of sight to the units.
I would say that it's not a problem with the charge rules so much as the way it now interacts with palisades is very different. But these palisades are having a big effect on the game. This terrain is having a big effect on the game, and I think that is a good thing. If you used the old rules, the palisades would have meant nothing. I would just charge and clip you and drag you out of position, and you could not defend a palisade. What's being these palisades are acting the way you would expect a palisade to act, which is that whoever wants to attack over them has to commit extra activations to destroying them because they can't go through them.
Yeah.
But neither has been willing to do that so far, because obviously that gives the person on the other side of the palisade the advantage, and it has effectively created a defensible position, which I think is important in this game, because why should you not be able to create a defensible position?
Yeah, I agree. Red Scorpion says it really well in chat there. You used to be able to get like a tiny little like segment charge on a unit, and it would pull the unit out of position massively, and you'd end up with massive issues. And you couldn't hold of the game was all in the attacker's advantage, and we already know that charging is beneficial at the moment as a positive to the attacker, but having some form of defensive bonus in this case with the terrain being as it is beneficial. I do personally think they need to change the distance in which you deploy terrain at to make the gaps a little bit bigger. So I think if it was something like 8 inches or 9 inches or 10 inches, it would be better. But it is 6 inches at the moment, and we'll play with 6 inches. And ultimately, it's up to us as players to come with solutions for these kind of setups. Howland Reed comes out onto swords. Letters, sorry, and he's activated. He's gone on to the Stormcrow Archers. So these Stormcrow Archers have done an absolute shift. They've nearly killed a unit of Tully Sworn Swords that's had to be healed up. They've put some decent damage into the Stark Sworn Swords. They've just been pumping damage out.
Yep.
It's
interesting. It would not have been a unit that I would have marked because of the way that this ranged unit in the center of the battlefield, particularly behind these palisades, can continue to dominate the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably would have marked these these Stark Sworn Swords with no attachment, who have done nothing all game, but that's easy to say in the hindsight of knowing they've done nothing all game.
Yes.
But these Stormcrow Archers are kind of low-key high damage output when marked.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with their attack profile except for the fact that they hit on 4s. But when you throw enough dice, that doesn't matter anymore.
No, it doesn't. So see Aria come on to Crowns?
And you can definitely do enough wounds to ensure that you're going to force your opponent to take panic checks continuously. And the corpse piles that are over there are going to make that bad news for even Starks.
Yep. So you see Aria come out, and it looks like he's going on to the Stormcrow Mercenaries. So we're going to see a -1 panic check. He's outside of 6. Quite a long way outside of 6 of the corpse pile. Looks like a pass, though.
And a pass.
Is he going to spend the panic, though? He is? He's going to spend the panic. Reroll the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's got to do something, I guess. 8? That's a pass, because they go down to 7, don't they?
Still a pass. I mean, that's quite unlucky.
Yeah, that is.
But it's not a key moment. And these are desperate gambles now from Larks and get a unit within striking distance of being killed.
And he just goes and activates Sansa and goes, right, Larks, do something else.
No,
yeah.
For MJ, it's +2 to all attacks. It's not melee only.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely 100% works for ranged units.
Yeah.
Otherwise, ranged units would be a massive hindrance in this game mode.
Agreed. I would get it up on stream, but yeah, it is +2 on every dice roll. This looks like another shot. Can't tell.
Yep, the unit now activates and shoots into the Bran and Hodor unit again. We see 3 hits, which is going to be 3 wounds with a 111. And what's important here is something that Shaggy could kill.
And that's 7, so that is a pass, though. So they pass him around. That 111, man. That's 1 in 200. No, what am I talking about? It's 1 in 216, right? Rolling 3 ones.
There's a 1 in 8 chance that he fails all 3. It doesn't matter what exactly he rolls.
Yeah, but 111.
It seems like things are getting worse for Larks. The dice are not helping him get back into this.
No. What do you see from Larks now? What do you think we should see? The tactics board's full. Um,
He
he has to
he's
make a
just
move on
had
board.
first turn, and he's no further forward. He's no more likely to do anything. It was his chance to take the initiative, and he hasn't. Whatever he does at the end of this turn will be countered by Ariakas, both in terms of a pair of activations after he's finished and first activation next round.
Don't worry, Emga.
He
We can't get them all right.
get his he has to do something with the marked units. He has to open them up in a way that they could score big. It's his only way back into the game.
So I'd like to point out for our regulars who come to quite a few of our streams, people have seen this in a game before, where a unit is deployed out on the flank, and it shovels across the game board, and it has minimal impact on the game. This is a classic Shalashaska Daryl move. We've seen it multiple times from him, and he did it this week with his Swarm Brothers. I don't want to say Larks is playing badly, because I don't think he is, but this Stark Outrider unit is not having a nice fun time, is he?
This 7-point unit is doing nothing that a dog activating and passing its turn couldn't have achieved.
But saying that, there is an opening for the Stark Outriders. If he can get them past his infantry and get them getting maybe round onto the flank of Rickon, there's a real dangerous chance, and it can bring some really, I think, impactful plays. And you see here, he's just going for it. He is deciding, right, this unit has to get into the game. It has to play. I'm going to put it in harm's way. The Archers
that's
are
totally
gone
the
now.
right thing to do here. He has to make risky plays. Is it the most sensible decision? No. Is it the only thing that's going to make him have a chance of winning this game? Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's not that risky. It's
the Palisade manages to protect his flank, and
the Archers are gone. The Archers aren't going to shoot you. So what? You're going to get charged by Rickon, and the Rickon mercenaries are unlikely to kill the Outriders, and that's the last place they want to be, is stood in front of a load of infantry bearing down on them. So this is absolutely fine for Larks, and I think this is a decisive move that we wanted to see from him, where he just went, right, I'm coming through.
I was about to say, I think we're about to see Shaggy Dog take the initiative and go in there and try and kill Bran and Hodor's unit, now that they're not scared that those Outriders will counter them.
So it's interesting, he didn't just move way wider. So it doesn't look like he's going towards the unit, it just looks like he's... The Walder is on there, remember, so there is no Vicious.
There's no Vicious.
Looks like he's not sure. Yeah, he's going to make... Okay, he's making the turn. You can turn way more than that, buddy. Yeah, look at that.
But interestingly, it is a risky maneuver if he goes for that charge, because Bran and Hodor have not yet activated. So I expect to see something... he might actually be looking to destroy the Palisade here.
Yeah, he needs to pivot it a little bit more.
Free up the Stark Sworn Swords to do something aggressive later in the round. I would think that it would be quite an oversight to make this charge this early in the round, considering he has more aggressive options. And yeah, we see that Palisade get destroyed, and the Stark Swords are now in play, and as is the flank of Bran and Hodor.
Yeah, this unit, I think, has to be activated now. This Bran and Hodor unit has to be activated, and you have to swing it round to face or do something. Interestingly, is there an option whereby this unit can actually swing its flank around and pivot so it can charge the Berserkers?
We see another Bog Devil ambush come out, and 4 hits result in 3 wounds, and the unit's on just the 1. Oh.
No, dead because of long range of Cranagman unit.
Dead within long range. That is quite a lucky set of dice. And though we see North remembers, we see these Outriders reactivate, and we're gonna see him make an aggressive move onto a marked unit in response.
Yeah, so these Stark Outriders, he's got a couple of options here. He probably wants to avoid the Berserkers with Bran and Hodor. It's a nice, dangerous unit. So do these Outriders... He's got 2 choices. Does he just YOLO real hard and come into the side of Mira's unit? Yeah?
He can.
He can get out a charge arc of the Stormcrows, and the front arc of his cavalry will be in the front arc of the Berserkers, meaning the Berserkers won't be able to countercharge either.
That is.
It's risky.
That is risky, but possibly his best option.
It's a flank
Don't
charge
forget
as
how
well.
many points. Don't forget how many points Rickon is worth, though.
True.
Um,
But he can't get into the flank of Rickon. He can't really take the bonus and really the advantage of the Stark Outrider unit in the way that he might want. So it looks like, because of course that was the activation of Larks that killed them, we are going to see an activation from Ariakas here in response. Oh. 2? Oh, traps.
So I believe they might have made a mistake there, which is, yeah, I agree. I believe it is Ariakas' action right now.
Yeah. Devastating impact. He has not got horses. Oh. Reroll. That's better. So he goes to the devastating impact charge.
And he hits that front. He takes the 50% on the long side. He is at risk if the Berserkers can make a free maneuver at the start of their activation.
Yeah.
If he has a swift advance, if I believe that's the right word for the card, then he will presumably go in there and get a flank on those.
Yeah. So we see that little bug coming in. We were talking about it earlier. We think it
We
is.
also see a Northern Ferocity come in.
Yeah.
And he doesn't control swords either. So the control of the zones here seems to be, despite the fact that Larks went first this round, all the important zones for Larks' activation cards are in Ariakas' hands.
So we see 6 hits. 6 hits with the Stark Outriders onto Brand's unit. So this unit can't die from this roll, but it can be in a nasty way. That's way more than 6. Oh, he got the D3 as well, I think.
Two hits for the two hits for the devastating impact, making it 8 hits, which means that
one less save and it could have died to the morale. Three from Osha. Every time it loses a rank, deal D3 because he owns swords.
Yep.
So 3 in return, and then we're going to see the panic check come out here.
A northern ferocity would be a huge play if he still has it.
In return,
making this a very painful charge.
He did have northern ferocity on this charge for Larks.
Sorry, not northern ferocity. Direwolf's Fervor. Direwolf's Fervor from Ariakas' perspective.
Yeah, he played one earlier, didn't he? So I think he's only got one left.
Yeah. Interesting that we still haven't seen Sansa Stark get used, as far as I know. I haven't seen her get flipped, and I haven't particularly seen him pull any card. I feel like this is the big play of the turn, and I would have liked to see him take something on.
I feel like he might have pulled a card back in hand. He may not have done, but it feels like he's played more than 2 Bog Devils this game on Ariakas' side. But I might be wrong. Yeah, Rickon is placed wrongly in this unit over here, I believe. Is Rickon the last unit to be destroyed? He is, isn't he? Where is he? Yeah, always the last model. So he's correctly deployed here, wrongly deployed here. It's not actually a big deal because we'll know when Rickon dies. It's just the last thing. So he wants him to look in his pile. We see Bog Devil, Threat Unseen, Crannog, so one of each Howland, and then a mixture. Both devastating impacts have come out from Larks, which is pretty big, pretty important. But there are still half the Howland cards available. You can choose. Can you choose? I thought you couldn't, because he said, Valuable Captive said this model is always the last model destroyed from this unit, whereas Osha doesn't have that ability. Osha does not have that attachment thing, Emger, so Rickon must be last.
Interestingly, from that perspective, though, Simon have stated that that is just a reiteration of the attachment rule and that all attachments have that rule.
Oh, right, okay. That's just so stupid. So we see more wounds onto these Stark Outriders. Pass the panic check with Direwolf's Fervor. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that about Rickon. So has he just retreated this unit? I think he's outside of range. So yeah, he is retreating by the looks of it with the Stark Outrider ability to retreat after being attacked.
But Ariakas will take first next round. The question is whether or not he has enough damage on the charge to kill that unit, or possibly whether or not the Berserkers can get across there fast enough to apply pressure to the Stark Outriders. That seems like such a distance now. It's at least 20 odd inches. That palisade is starting to bite him in that it is now restricting his march options.
Yep.
So really it's going to be down to Rickon to be able to win that fight by himself now. It is interesting how late in the game, Larks has now finally managed to get a weight of units and weight of activations in on this one unit, which is something that Ariakas has been achieving throughout the entire game.
So do we just see this unit, the Stark Sworn Swords, march up, or you just pull Brandon Hodor's unit of Berserkers in and go, look, I'll put them in this gap here between Rickon and the Palisade, and I will threaten you.
I think what Ariakas still has going for him is that he can lose this unit of Rickons and still be ahead.
Well,
so he doesn't actually have to
2, 3, 4. Not if it's killed by a marked unit.
Not if it's killed by a marked unit, but I don't think that will happen. They are so far out of position through that corpse pile. I expect him to take his first activation to charge into the Stark Outriders. And
with this Stormcrow Merc unit up, though.
Now that applies some pressure. I think that Ariakas can, rather than trying to save this unit, he can try to apply more pressure elsewhere. Can, of course, as his first activation next round, try and retreat this unit, but that will just see the Stark Outriders charge into them and presumably kill them.
So, what I would suggest here is, from Ariakas, he's got the Stark Sworn Swords over here, the Naked Sworn Swords unit. It could just march full pelt 10 inches and just position itself ready to come at the flank of the Tully Sworn Swords. It's a bit of cat and mouse, but it really puts the Tully Sworn Swords in a difficult position. And then, after the Tully Sworn Swords have activated, he can then get Brandon Hodor's Berserker unit and plonk them right into the flank of Rickon's unit. And just, look, I'm going to come at you, and I'm going to come hard, and I'm going to come and pin you, and the fight is now going to happen over here, and my marked unit of Stormcrow archers are going to be firing at me and supporting me into these corpse piles. I think this is still in Ariakas' favour.
It's in his favour, not on the board, so significantly so anymore. Now that Larks has finally managed to get these Outriders into play, it's in his favour because he is VPs up, and that still allows him to. He's so far ahead that even if he loses this Stormcrow Mercenary unit, which is marked and has Rickon in, even if he loses it to another marked unit, he can play a 1-for-1 kind of trade game with that, as long as he is trading units out.
So, we're currently
this game is still on.
Oh, definitely. We're currently sitting about 30 viewers, so thanks guys for tuning in. Hopefully you'll come and check us out on other streams. On Sunday at 2:30 GMT +1, if I'm correct, or UTC +1, we have the other top table. It's going to be Stannis, 1000th Lord Commander, playing his Baratheons against Furioku's Free Folk. So come down on Sunday at 2:30 GMT +1 for that game if you want to. Is there any consideration to send Rickon running? Yes, there is a chance. I mean, there is obviously there is a chance if this Rickon unit doesn't die that or Osha doesn't die, which means only 3 wounds, that Osha could send Rickon to Mira's unit. I was surprised he didn't actually do that in the last. Yeah, why didn't he do that when the Stark Outriders charged? Why didn't
I'm
he
not
just send
sure.
Rickon across?
Can he send Rickon
Yeah, just
to a
send.
unit that already has an attachment in,
Yeah, I think so.
ignoring usual attachment rules? Yes, I do believe that um, that he. I'm surprised that he didn't during its activation, when activated and attacked after the Stark Outriders had attacked and already taken its go down fighting, that he didn't sacrifice Osha to send Rickon over into the Stormcrow Archers.
I guess it does take away some wounds on the unit, to to the point where they are less effective, which is I guess part of it. But um,
It maintains some damage potential right now with 7 attacks hitting on 4s on the charge.
yeah,
With a card, they could push through a kill on the Stark Outriders as their first activation. Without one, you'd be pushing your luck, I think.
yeah. So they could swing into the side over here, position over here, and then after, if they do get the kill, surge forth back and put them out of harm's way. But yes, Frioku, hey all, it's not been an easy game. It looks like it might have been easy for Ariakas. The scoreline certainly suggests that, but actually it has been quite a nitty-gritty game, and there's been some close moments, so it's not exactly easy. Um, Red Scorpion, you want to see the Night Watch player. If you know which Night Watch player you're talking about, give us his name and we'll see if we can get him on stream. I don't know when his games are, but if you want to send, if you tell us who we're talking about there, we can always ask him. We'll see if we've got time to put him on stream. Gruslug, yeah, he gives up the unit. Frioku last deployed suboptimal. Yeah, Ariakas got lucky. Yeah, a little bit. And Carl from West Coast Bannerman, Carl Curson, good old Peacekeeper Games, now West Coast Bannerman, who does the pick'ems. $5 Starks win anyone. I take that bet. I take that bet, Carl. I reckon. I predicted earlier in the game that I think Lannisters win this victory because it is Starks killing Starks, which is what Lannisters want. Okay, so.
Whereas I didn't go with you, and I
Okay.
predicted that Ariakas had the upper hand, and feeling vindicated as always.
Yeah, always. So we see Walder come out and whoa, sudden charge, devastating impact. Oh dear lord. The Walder sudden charge, devastating impact card combo. You get a turning unit off.
Card. That is the
Charge.
card the aggressive card that we wanted to see. Those 2 wounds, third with Walder. Walder
went
actually
over
goes
onto-
onto the Tullies because that now massively weakens them. Interestingly, I'm surprised he's not going 50%
I'm
to
a
try
bit
and
surprised.
get as far away as possible. They are vulnerable. So that devastating impact is exactly the kind of card that he needed to make this a very likely kill now.
Oh
And
my lord.
suddenly him keeping Rickon in that unit, not using the run child ability, has kept them on that extra rank, given them 2 extra dice, and another well-calculated play by Ariakas. Emger says that he got lucky against the Kranigman, but when a player continuously gets lucky when you watch it from one perspective, then I think that you have to understand that they are actually incredibly calculated and they are playing their luck. Yes, they are playing. They may seem to get luckier than they should sometimes, but most people playing at this level, when you think they're getting lucky, what they're actually doing is they're calculating the odds of something happening and that they're willing to take that risk.
Yes. People say you create your own luck, and I actually hate that phrase. I think that phrase itself is rubbish. But it is true that you play the statistics, you play the odds more, and better players will do that. I always used to remember when I first started gaming, people would take on a role, and it was like 1 to 5 you lose the game, on a 6 you win the game, and they would take that roll and be, oh, that's a really good chance, and then they'd roll a 4 and be like, oh no, I didn't win, or I rolled a 5, oh, it's nearly a 6, I could have won. But a good player will set it up so a 4, 5, 6 they don't lose, and a 1, 2, 3 they don't lose. So it doesn't matter what they roll, they won't lose the game with that play. I think that's
Exactly.
the big difference.
I never use the term luck. There is no such thing as luck in this game because you can always work out what your odds are. The word you should use is risk. You need to understand how likely something is to happen and then assess whether or not you think it is worth it.
Yes.
And when you look at luck in that way, it's not luck anymore. It's a risk. And are you willing to take the risk?
Yeah. So definitely risk management is definitely true. It can be luck. I mean, it is statistically possible that you play a dice game like this and you roll literally only ever once, right? It is possible.
It is possible.
But it's improbable, and if that did happen, honestly, I'd want that recorded because that's probably like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
What's great about this game is that once you start to understand which are the most important dice rolls, cards and tactics plays allow you to influence those rolls.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I agree, MGO. It's
that's
not
what the game
likely.
is about.
It's not
yeah, so
likely.
MJS says, getting 7 hits on 9 dice isn't really likely. No, but who cares? Who cares that he got 7 hits? Because he had already used a set of combination of cards that meant he would be very unlikely to kill the unit now. To not kill the unit, sorry. He was rolling enough dice.
I think he's talking about the charge earlier on into the wounds.
So that it's not a risk anymore. Exactly.
So I think MGO is referring to the tracker charge earlier on in the game.
The tracker charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, even if it was,
but I think that
roll,
charge is does not come down to whether or not he does that many wounds.
Yeah.
Maybe that then defines the fact that Larks chooses to stay in combat with him rather than retreating and shooting because he has less dice than he might otherwise have.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's interesting. Carl says, "Would the game be?" Oh, Mr. Machete, thank you for the follow, by the way. I think it's interesting when people say more dice. I've played a game which has completely gone away from my head. It was a GMT, I think, card and or counter and board game based on World War One, and your strength of your armies was huge numbers. It was like strength of this army would be 200, and what you did was you rolled a number of d6s, however many d6s you want. You could roll 300 d6s if you want. But if you scored more than your army's value, you did no damage, you did nothing. And if you rolled under your value, you killed the amount under your value. So if you got 200 and you roll 150, you do 150 damage. But you see people going, "Oh, my strength's 20, so I'll roll 20. I'll roll 7 d6, and then they get a 21, and they do nothing." Whereas someone who knows they don't need that much, they go, "Oh, I'll roll 4 dice. Statistically, I'm unlikely to go over 20, and I can do enough damage to damage my opponent." So I played games like that, and I think that really is really interesting in the way that you manage expectation versus risk, and that's an entire game based on that management. We see the charge here from the Berserkers come in, and
a swift advance seals off Larks' opportunity to make a counter charge back into this Rickon Stormcrow mercenary unit.
Weakened. Looks like they're down to, is that?
Oh, and I think it's interesting that he didn't take the opportunity when he could. He had the action open there to him.
Oh, safe.
And I don't think he really was in a position to pass up any given opportunity for a marked unit to destroy an enemy marked unit with Rickon in it.
Yeah. Morale check 7. That's going to be a fail. 4 dead. Horrible roll.
What's interesting here is that these corpse piles have really come in to hurt Larks throughout this entire game. And have not had much effect on Ariakas at all. And yet, I believe that Ariakas placed the pair of Palisades and Larks placed the pair of corpse piles. It's an interesting choice. And what he thought his advantage there is, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, right, we see Northern Ferocity come out. Okay, so Northern Ferocity in response. So this is going to hurt. You know, this is going to be 7 dice with the 2 ranks and marked from the Stormcrow mercenaries. And that's not a bad attack. 1 miss. 2 misses, they hit on 4s, right? Yeah. You can tell I'm a free folk player because I never know any of the stats of the neutral units.
And also, you think 2 hits is good.
2 hits? What is this 2 hits thing you speak of? I'm used to killing a guy every now and then. So it looks like quite a few berserkers are going to die here. Not enough to kill the unit, of course. Damn Canadian, so flipping nice. Larks can't help but let him win. Yeah. Ooh, another fail. These berserkers have not had a good time with the morale this game. He failed another one earlier, didn't he?
That's twice these berserkers have managed to fail a 5+ morale. That has hurt him significantly.
Yeah. Does Rick on
and
unit?
Thanks to the sudden charge, Ariakas's Stormcrow mercenaries are still unactivated. So it may now put pressure on him to. He takes bags that his berserkers will survive the turn, particularly with Howland coming down and giving them -1 to hit. That makes those Stormcrow mercs hit on 5s and is quite a significant drop for them.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was considering whether or not he would have wanted to take those Stormcrow mercs and charge into the mercenaries front, but it would have been quite the risk with go down fighting.
Yep.
And the unit left to activate. And now that I see it in the cold light of day, I think that Moneybags play is the much safer response.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Moneybags is very safe. We see 6 morale check from the Crowns come out. The panic to reroll.
Still just the same wounds. He has been quite unfortunate with those panic rerolls. They've not allowed him to force through any damage.
Yeah. He's 3 times this game, where he's used a panic reroll and either the reroll was still a pass on bad odds as well, or the reroll was used for the damage increase and it didn't increase the damage. So a little bit unlucky there, but not enough to change the game, I don't think.
The important thing here now for Ariakas is can he get the 10th point to finish off this game? Chances are that's a no. So we are going to go into a last round.
Yep.
With Larks taking that first activation, we would presumably see a swords come out from Larks. Getting a kill onto the berserkers is not impossible, particularly once Howland Reader's gone, because they have yet to activate this turn. They can attack, and then they can activate next round with the swords. They will be unactivated.
Yep.
What we can see also is we could see Walder Frey be used on those swords to turn off the abilities of the Stormcrow archers. He would then control swords with Osher with 5 wounds. He would be a very untempting target for the Stormcrow mercenaries to charge, and he would not necessarily be in range of a kill from the Stormcrow archers.
Yeah.
There is still some huge VP explosive plays that can be made by Larks on turn 6.
Yeah, I don't think this game is over by any stretch. Yeah, Carl Kirsten, you can tell he's drinking. Hang on. If I'm right, and I might not be right, Carl, Peacekeeper Games, I don't know if you're East Coast or West Coast, but either way...
Well, he would be West Coast Bannerman, so I think that would put him about 1 o'clock in his afternoon, I think is the point that you're getting at.
I'm just gonna go and...
It might even be midday.
The point is, it's midday for Carl, and he's talking about taking shots. I'm just a bit disappointed, Carl. You know. Actually, I'm not.
Interestingly, are we seeing a retreat here?
Yeah. I think he wants...
Wow. That's interesting.
He doesn't want the risk of Rickon coming in and killing him.
So is he trying to get out of range of Mirror Read, but is he activating right now and moving while within 12 inches of Mirror Read?
I mean, he is.
I think that he can take D3 wounds here, and that then puts a load of pressure on the crowns because that will put him, within a simple crowns kill kind of range.
Grusselug's just had a brilliant game mind plan thing. Came out badly. But playing every time every time a unit takes a wound, you take a shot and play it in the Rose Nightmare matchup. Great idea. Mirrors
Uh,
and traps is unengaged units, so it is the same as the trappers. It's only unengaged enemy units within long range. So
of course,
retreat
yeah. The
is
unit begins engaged, so the retreat is not a valid
yeah.
target.
But 2 Tully Sworn Shields are going to die. One thing I will say about these Sworn Shields is that they have absorbed a lot of damage this game, and they're still hanging about.
They have, but they have not done much.
Not really.
Ariakas has been far, far better at using Walder to remove Mira's abilities. He has not managed to trap Ariakas ever this game, possibly. Maybe
Not
just the once,
yeah.
whereas Ariakas has continually put out those D3 wounds every turn. And nearly and at the same time he is shutting down that shield wall ability. He's never really shot into the unit and allowed it to have its shield wall ability.
Yeah.
And I think that in a 7 points for the Tully Shields with Mira versus 6 points for the Stormcrow Archers with Mira, Ariakas has massively gotten the upper hand there.
Yep. So just got more interaction with chat while we see some shenanigans and moving around. Terra, yes, we can make a real movie called Targ Sadness, Revenge of the Sad. Me and Carlo talked at length in our prediction video, which I then actually cut out, about Targ Sadness. I won't go into the real nitty gritty, but here's a statistic for you. Targs in the tournament currently have a win rate of less than 20%.
Every other faction is close to 50%. Everybody else is sharing trading wins. Every other faction is playable, and the Targaryens are now less than 20%.
And
And
the funny thing
and
is,
almost all of those wins have come from Mystery Knight, who
is a mystery. Um, Interestingly,
so
the Targs have only won 3 games, and one of them was a mirror.
yeah.
So they've
Yeah.
only won 14% of the games they've played. I mean, I'm sorry, Targs.
Yeah. Other than a Targ mirror matchup, I believe that Mystery Knight is the only Targaryen player who's beaten a faction that isn't Targaryens.
Yeah.
The only other Targ win was in a mirror matchup. They are all clumped together at the bottom of the rankings. And
I feel sorry for Targs.
And well, basically, what's interesting is that Mystery Knight is debatably not even playing Targs. He's debatably playing neutrals with a Targaryen deck.
Yep. Other things being said in chat here. Batman, someone I talked to a little bit. All I'll say to Batman is, do bears give up points in Fire and Blood? I know that's a meme question that's being asked on Order of the Meisters over on the main Discord at the moment. Yeah, that was my fault. I apologise, Batman. That was a long conversation.
Unfortunately, Grislug, good luck to you in the Aussie tournament running Targs, but I don't think that Targaryen's Heroes 1 saves Targaryens at all. It's not enough.
And
they didn't get an NCU commander. They didn't get an extra 3-point NCU. They didn't get this. Yes, it will marginally improve them.
But improving something that's we see a Crowns play on first thing of turn 6, and it does actually kill off the marked Rickon unit at the back there. So yeah, Gruselug, the Targs. I mean, we could talk at length about some of the things we mentioned the other day, but all I'll say is that the Pikemen been a big unit of contention, I think, for Unsullied and the Targs. And when they said they're going to be expensive and they're going to be slow and they're going to be cool, me and Carlo almost simultaneously were shaking our heads, being like, "Oh my god, they are going to be just terrible. And by that I
The
mean,
only units that can save the Targaryens right now are if the Hakars are cheap,
yeah,
or if they get a cheap spam-based unit in the Freeman.
yeah.
They are losing the activation game to everybody, not just losing it to Starks and Free Folk. They are losing it to Baratheons who are managing to out. When you can't out activate your opponent or at least have activation parity, I don't care how maneuverable you are because your opponent gets to take free activations after you've finished your turn. Therefore, you can't out position them. It's as simple as that. They need to get onto activation parity with everybody. And much like Starks, for them to be good, they need to have one more activation than their opponent. Two would be ideal, but now you're pushing it. Now you can't have quality units.
I mean, that is to go to say, I mean, Targs don't lose all their games. Targs can win. I think good Targ players will. Look, we see a fail morale check here. Is that? Oh no, they
I think we see a pass.
pass. Yeah,
We
they
see
pass.
threat unseen come out onto them when they activate. I think he's setting up to finish off Rickon's unit, as opposed to trying to make any kind of charge. He takes one wound from the traps. Finally, he seems to be having to play into Larks' defense. Larks has drawn away into the corner, but I think it's mostly Ariakas is smelling blood and thinking that he can get a crushing victory by destroying all opponents, as opposed to letting this eke itself out into a minor win to his favor. He also doesn't want to allow.
There is an
He doesn't
interesting.
want to allow our opportunities to make big plays with his mocked unit to get.
So what I will say is that there is a really interesting point here with the fact that if Larks with his Stormcrow Mercenary unit can do enough damage to Bran's Berserker unit, actually it puts Larks into a winning position.
It does, and the Tully Swan Shields are not an easy unit to finish off now that they finally have their abilities. He has used Walder Frey onto the crowns, blocking that unit. And interestingly, once Larks retreated, I might have considered that Ariakas might have also just retreated and accepted the minor win.
I don't think. I mean, Larks will get 2 points for killing the Berserkers. That takes them to 9-9. Who has more units on the board left then? Is it Ariakas or Larks? Oh, it doesn't matter. I didn't realise there was a charge happening. I'm guessing there was a swift advance there that we missed.
Yes, I guess that whole maneuver was swift advance, and what he was trying to achieve was to not be in the corpse pile.
Yeah, and well, rip.
I mean, it's not impossible for him to not have enough damage to push this through. It's be incredibly unlikely for them to pass the morale check too, though. So I think
nine dice. You're going to be hitting with most of them with the reroll. You know, we can probably assume like 8 hits.
We see a pretty poor first roll. He's not weakened though.
5 of 9 is not statistically bad. So 2 misses, so 7 hits. They're saving on 5s. So 7 hits saving on 5s. You'd expect him to get 3. Oh, but Bran and Hodor 2 more hits.
Yeah.
So he's probably statistically he's dead here. I think. Yes. Look, loads of bad roll
that's
anyway.
Not great.
But...
That's not great. And we are. We may presumably see a go down fighting. Takes 2 ranks off. Yeah, and we're into.
That's
crushing, we're into. Can he avoid the wipeout? Can he avoid the crushing defeat?
So this is really important for Larks and Ariakas, actually, that the game is this heavily in Ariakas' favour, because it will mean that Larks has a crushing defeat going into the last round, which will hamper Larks' opportunities to go for second place.
Larks has the highest SP factor so far, having gone crushing victories in every round up until now.
Yep.
So this will hurt him quite a lot, and there are a ton of people coming up from behind with a loss coming up into this who will now be threatening to take second place away from him.
Yeah, and you know what, I don't want to sit here and say Larks has got no chance, because we know that Larks is a good player. He's been very dominant in every game going up to this, and the guys watching in chat, the likes of Michael Rumsbaum and Tank and things like that, who I believe know him in real life, know that he's a very good player, and he definitely has the opportunity, and he's been given the opportunity today to try and win, and he's put in a good showing. The game's not over yet, but he's definitely not. It's unlikely he can win this. I don't think it's actually possible he can win this game, unfortunately.
Not from here. He quite literally doesn't have enough activations to score 4 points with. That is a impossibility, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
The question is he going to try and avoid being wiped out? I mean, he looks like he mostly wants to take horses and try and retreat. He still leaves himself open to maneuver into swords.
Yeah, swift advance. He's just going to go for it.
Is he going for a charge, or is he using the extra maneuver to get further away?
Crowding traps, -2 movement, but he's not in long range. It's pretty rip.
So they're on a 3 movement total.
Meaning they can move 3, then march 3 if they want with the swift.
I think, yeah, he's just retreat. He's just getting
out of dodge.
Yeah, without a sudden charge.
Is he going to charge?
Oh.
Madman, is he going to try and kill the berserkers? It's, to be fair, they've activated this turn. It's risky because swords hasn't been taken. It's 2, it's not disorderly.
Yeah, it is very risky. And doesn't get him very far. If he doesn't throw down some extra hits on impact, then I would be quite surprised if this had the effect that he wants it to have.
Yeah. That'll have to do. For some reason, Larks' trays have been bugging out with the other trays, so they don't seem to do the charger line. For those in chat, we think it's to do with old trays, but we're not sure. That was a good roll.
I mean, 4 hits, yeah.
No,
great.
2, right? They hit on 4s.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the traps meant
and
they didn't get the reroll? Or he rolled a 2, right? He gets the reroll. Don't know. Maybe he doesn't.
No, he wasn't within range of traps.
No. Pass the morale check.
Which just...
Oh, 2 more armor saves, I think. Yeah, so that was 2 more armor saves. Now it's the morale check.
Yeah, they do hit on 3s. I thought they hit on 3s.
Yeah. They just... I think they just misread how many... And they passed the morale. So that unit's not dead. There's no...
And now they're at their most effective.
There's no more ways that you can harm him.
Seems like he wants to just throw the game there, but maybe not. Maybe he has a play in mind.
North remembers? Reactivate one of his unactivated units this turn?
Walder does the extra wound. With 10 dice, it's actually unlikely. He's going to need him to fail a panic check. They're now finally coming into their own, having their blocks and other such uses.
10 dice sitting on 3s, right? So we'd expect 2 sixths, sorry, 2 sixths, 2/3, so 66%, so 6 to 7 hits. 3 of them, assume 3 have been blocked, not necessarily always. 2 is average, so 5 hits going through, and then he's got 5 armor saves, which you'd expect to save about 2/3 of those.
3 plus saves.
So you're probably going to make 2 to 3 wounds, is what we'd expect. Now, that's not including Bran and Hodor, but they've already used their ability this turn, so... So 5 hits, slightly less than average.
It's already off to a bad start. Throw down the order. Yeah, I mean, he's going to survive.
They don't have the order because of Walder. Is that right?
No, Walder. He's not first player, and he doesn't have crowns.
And he blocked 3.
He blocks 3.
2.
He's only got to take 2 saves. He might not even take a wound. He might not have to take the panic check, and the panic check was the only thing that was ever going to kill him.
There's a 3.
And he takes the 1, and it's down to that 7 plus panic. Can happen, but I mean,
7 gets it.
He's fine with the 6 plus morale and the -1.
And he takes money bags to heal back up.
So interesting that charge is maybe. So is he scared of another sudden charge? But both have gone down, have they not?
Yeah, and it pulls him out of the way. It pulls him further away from the Stark Sworn Swords, which is important thing.
I guess. I think between the maneuver and then a march, he could have still gotten quite far away.
But even only 6 movement, so
Yeah,
6-inch march. You know, with the horses on show, I think there was probably no easier way. If he killed this unit and was able to like retreat onto the corpse pile somewhat, he might have made his position safer. But
it's going to be the Stark Sworn Swords that have the
killing
only real
blow.
opportunity to get this kill.
So more cards coming out. Is that? That was the last card from Larks. He's gone through his entire deck. Wow. I haven't interacted with chat. Let's go back to chat. What we're doing. Terra and Carl are probably talking about Targs and probably crying, and also Woo Team Canada. Complaining about Simon. Shouldn't do that. Someone complaining about pizza. Again, you shouldn't do that. Pizza's great. Go deliver some pies. Ooh, fun times. Catch you later, Carl. You take it easy. Enjoy the pie delivery. And we see the successful charge here.
I'm not 100% sure a pie means the same thing in the UK and the US.
Oh, it's American pies, isn't it?
Yeah.
Red Scorpion's poking his head up and saying, I want my Greyjoys. Carlo, I believe you have something to say on that matter.
I want my Greyjoys too. That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. Carlo won the free giveaway of a Greyjoy starter box. Because he's a jammy insert expletive here.
Hey, what can I say? Some people's lives just go that way, and mine's one of them generally.
How's the job going, Carlo?
Wonderful.
I can make that joke because I know Carlo in real world life, and he's a bad person. Lots of hits there.
Yeah, relatively true. Most people would say I'm quite a bad person.
Oh god, that's.
Oh wow, we see a single.
No,
hit?
we don't.
He does hit on. Oh no, with the wow with Howland. Yeah, of course we still hit on 4s even with Stark Fury. Wow, that weakened really came in good there.
Wow.
So he's gonna survive the turn. That's gonna be GG. 13-7. Oh, which if it is actually 13-7 is already a crushing victory.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Right. They've just said they've just sent a message over saying game over. So do you want to go through and join them?
Yeah.
Right, guys. For those in chat, we're just going to do a quick interview with the guys now. So hang around, and we'll get thoughts, and then we'll do other things and announcements and all that just after this.
You added list.
Same, yeah.
I thought it first unreliable. This matchup. Yeah.
All right, guys. How are you doing? How's everything going?
Great. It's nervous.
Had a great game.
Cool. It sounds like you both enjoyed it, which is good to hear. Even though obviously there's going to be a winner and loser. Larks, let's start with you because I'm interested. I'm going to hear both of you anyway. But why did you choose your Howland list?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I heard you both speculating about it.
Yep.
So I kind of knew that you would ask the question, but I think it was the right call, and I can give you the reasons because the Howland list is or Howland as a commander, in my opinion, is very good anti-Stark commander because of the potential to kill the wolves. The dire wolves, and then you can quite quickly reduce the activation amount of your opponent. That's part one, and you can also cripple the charging and maneuvering potential. Plus, I had Walder in my list, and in this matchup, with Walder, even especially if you take turn 2, you can quite quickly again kill wolves and work on this activation count. So. That was my reasoning behind this. I tried I think I tried all matchups in training games, and this was I think the best choice in this environment. And because if I would have taken the Tully list, which is okay and has 4 combat units and so on, but I from the beginning would have been one activation behind,
Yeah.
no matter which list he picked. So.
Okay. So I guess Ariakas, same kind of question to you. What made you pick your Howland list? Was it the same kind of stuff, or did you have different reasoning?
Definitely very similar reasoning. I just imagined the 4 possible combinations, and I felt like if it was Brendan versus my Eddard, I might have a slight advantage because I had a 1 activation bonus. I have Eddard who can carve up Sworn Shields. But if I was to fight my Eddard versus his Howland, as he said, he now has the activation bonus. He can kill my dogs with Walder and Bog Devil Ambush. And my key unit, being the Great Axes, are only movement 4. So if he was to play any of the kind of trap cards, it pretty much, slows me down forever and I can't get into the combats that need to be. So I felt like I really needed to match his activation count, and it just would be pretty much a mirror. And I'm really glad he brought up the going second part. In my practice games, that became very obvious that I wanted to go second so that you could always instantly kill a dog. Sometimes I like to go first, often because I want to get the envelope first. But in this matchup, you want the dog kill.
Yeah. It's interesting. It sounds a little bit like a gambit that you both played there, where you both looked at the matchups, at all the possible combinations, as you say, and went, the only way I can go into this, not knowing what he's going to pick, is Howland is my best choice. So you both came into it thinking exactly the same thing, that Howland is the best choice in case he picks Howland, and you both picked Howland.
And I think we both hoped that the other one would not pick Howland, because the Howland mirror match is, as we saw, it's really tense, it's really close, but it's also kind of, I don't have the right words. I would say like unreliable. It's not safe because it's so dependent who draws the right cards at the right moment and so on. I think we both hoped that the other one would pick the field commander.
Yeah.
So I have got a question to you both now, and I'll start with you, Ariakas, I think. Something that kind of like just got me a little bit is your NCU lineups from the pair of you are basically exactly the same, right? Except Ariakas, you choose Sansa, and Larks, you choose Arya. So why do you choose Sansa over Arya for this list? What makes you think Sansa is better?
I like Sansa despite the nerf, just because, especially with Howland, you want a big graveyard of used cards, and Howland uses his card right from turn 1. I have no problem throwing down a Crown Dog Traps turn 1, a Bog Devil Ambush turn 1. And, this game, I think there were a lot of moments when I could have pulled out a card at a key moment, but I was holding on to it just for, a decisive game-breaking kind of moment. And I feel like that's what the cards do. The star cards are so loaded that a Swift Advance, Devastating Impact, Sudden Charge at the right time can just game over.
Yeah, okay. So Larks, on the flip side, why do you think Arya is the better pick for this list?
I wouldn't say Arya is the better pick, because our lists are different in the sense that he has the Mercs and I have the Quanogman. And Arya is maybe the better pick, but only in combination with the Quanogman. So I see his point totally, and it's true. It's kind of nice control and psychological element to always let your opponent think about, okay, which card could he draw back and so on. But even though I could not really showcase it in this match because the Quanok died early, there's this possible really, really, really strong combination with Arya to do, like, if it's the enemy's turn, the opponent's turn, you can go ahead, grab a Swift Advance, do 2 attacks, then 1 attack start of the round and 1 attack following with the swords. And that's really powerful. But he played it well on this side, and also the Palisades were really hindering my gameplay in the middle.
Yeah.
And he did his job great there.
Yeah, we were talking a lot about that, and I think, from one of our perspectives, I kept mentioning it on stream actually. Stark Outriders, they're one of the best performing units in the tournament so far, with a staggering 70% win rate. And they were able to be kind of harangued into a corner, and you couldn't really get them out doing what they wanted to do. And then when they did finally get through on this flank, you were able to put pressure on, and it did actually look like there was this opportunity where things could go well. But it was almost like it was too late. So the Palisade plays are really strong there to kind of close that game down.
I mean, I was on the back foot like from the beginning. I felt like, because round one was really crucial when I think it was one round when round one when my wolf died already.
I think
Right,
yeah,
I
to
had a
the
target image, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
bug devil.
Yeah, so all this play suddenly crumbled in a way, but that's something you have to expect. So and then, but what was crucial that the mercenary bowmen like passed 2 of their panic tests, and normally one way I figured to beat his list was to mark them and to really wear them down with panic test and threat unseen and so on, and then maybe a charge from Shaky Dog or something if Miro is turned off. But that did not work out, and so I had to figure out something else and kind of overload on one flank, but that was really not easy because I had to maneuver all the way up, and he played very cautiously, so no mistakes there to exploit, and
Okay. Carlo, have you got any questions?
Yeah, I think the terrain was probably the most influential part of this game, and had far more influence here than in any other match that we've commentated on. So, do you want to maybe, Ariakas, do you want to talk us through how the terrain deployment went for you, what specifically you had in mind, and then, Larks, you can talk about your response to that and how we ended up with, obviously we ended up with that pair of palisades, but why did we end up with a pair of corpse piles to match them? So, Ariakas, was that something that you always planned and was always part of the game?
Yeah, I've practiced a lot this week to get ready for this match, and I got to give a big shout out to my friend Rowan Lahore for all the practice he's given me. And in our practice games, the terrain that I found was the most effective was the Palisades because I have the archers, so I have a slight range advantage for him, and it splits the table, and he's more maneuverable than I am. So if he's kind of forced to funnel into one half, I can kind of localize my power on one side as well. So yeah, from the get-go, the Palisades have been very annoying for my practice games. So they've been great to slow my opponent down and just make him kind of fight my.
Okay.
And so Larks, you responded with corpse piles. Do you think that was the terrain piece that you wanted once the game got into play? And why did you pick the corpse pile specifically?
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that in the moment he plays the Palisades, that it would be like wiser to switch to maybe River Trees or something not hindering. But what I found in my practice games is that this -1 morale is really crucial for his list because he has both mercenaries, and it somehow this small like edge you need to kill enemy units when you're going with your Cranogman. So this -1 is really huge if you can pull off like 3 attacks. So it comes into play 3 times. That's what I wanted to do was like if he denies me the one side of the battlefield, then I can at least create an not nice environment for him on the other side. That was my game plan, and to make the threatening potential of the Cranogman even stronger.
Okay, so you're looking to play into that Arya Cranigman activation at the end of one round into the start of the next round, and that was the explosive damage you were looking for, I guess, was your game plan?
Yeah, that's right. Normally, winning with this list or the performance of this list heavily depends on your Cranogman performance, and obviously the Cranogman performance was very poor this game. So but that's the plan, and I often set up everything for this, and then you have to choose your decisive strike moment. And he like did it very well, I think, because his unit was kind of a bait, and it was a risky bait, but it was a bait, and I think I took it, and it was a mistake. It ended up being a mistake.
Okay. I guess my final questions. You both mentioned practice games. With the TTS tournament being a week-long thing, we don't often see the opportunity to get practice games in a normal tournament, right? You can't do that. Do you think that changes the meta of this tournament a little bit, or do you think it's given you a better understanding of the game? What do you think?
100%. So I learned a lot in my practice games, and if I hadn't had that practice, I think he would have pulled a lot more tricks on me. So you can see the way I deployed my battle lines. I made a lot of lines here. So one trick that I found in my practice games was Prime dogs can march 12 towards a dog before the dog activates, and then when the dog activates, they can play bog double ambush, which pretty much guarantees the kill. So early on, I said I knew my dogs are dead activations, so they deploy way back on the 6-inch line. And then a friend of mine, when he went first with Cran Dogs, he right before round 1, Aria'd them forward, shot me, and then turn 1 took the swords, shot me again for 16 rerolling shots. I learned never to deploy on the deployment line and deploy 3 inches back to make that impossible.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. Yeah, I never really considered that.
Same on the other side. You have to stay way out of 14 inches of the archers. And I don't know, I played like 4 or 5 games this week. Big shout out, to Yannick and Michael there. being there at any times. And that's really great and helpful. I think it really deepens the experience of every round, and I feel it's great. And even your sparring partners in practice, they also come to play new lists and study interesting matchups. I think it's a great part of TTS tournaments in comparison to live tournaments.
Bro, fantastic. Okay, so my last thing I really wanted to say, Ariakas, undefeated so far, going into the last round. You'll find out your opponent on Sunday when Stannis versus Furioku play. Who do you want to play against in the final?
Oh, that is a tough one. I kind of remember the Baratheon list, and I kind of remember the Free Folk list. If I had to be honest, I probably want to play against... Oh, that's tough, because I know that... it's hard. I probably would want to go against the Baratheons, just because they're slower, less activations, and I can kind of control them a little better.
Yeah.
I'm gonna root for the Baratheons to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Larks, yourself, obviously set back by this defeat, obviously, but there is still an opportunity to go for second place. If you go for that another crushing victory. I think you're probably still in contention. I think. So who would you like to face in the next round? What kind of matchups, or what faction have you not played yet that you really want to play in this kind of top level?
I definitely don't want to play Starks again. I think it was the third matchup. I played Baratheon. I played Baratheons and Night's Watch. I really like with the Howland list. I really like the Free Frog matchup. That's interesting and always pretty fun and bloody.
Cool.
I played this a lot against Michael, so I know what I'm talking of. Yeah, that would be fun. I really like to play against Free Frog.
Okay, cool. Well, we can't promise anything, of course, but we might. No, we can't rig it. So cool, brilliant. As a little thing, I don't know if any of you know Space Cowboy. He is in the tournament. He gave me some nice little dice. He may have been participating, but he did these designs with some alternate art on them. So if there's any dice there you want to pick up, there's the important one I thought for you, Larks, is the Tully dice for your Brynden list. Might be quite nice. But feel free to copy them and use them in any games you want. So shout out to Space Cowboy there, who's been doing some nice stuff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, guys. Well, all the best in your next games. We'll obviously catch up, hopefully with you both in the next round, and we'll hopefully try and get some small streaming in. But if not, hope you enjoy the rest of the tournament, and obviously best luck in your last game.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.